Welcome to the Smark Foundation podcast. I'm Aaron. This is Adam.
Oh, hi, Marks.
And we are here to give you everything for the last week of WWE and AEW. I'll keep saying it until it's not true anymore. We are well-fed wrestling fans. I have been super stoked on everything lately. I'm just real happy right now.
Yeah, I mean that seems to be the general consensus too. I mean, I know that Blue Sky tends to be more of an AEW haven than a WWE haven. I think there's probably, I mean, that may just be the lists that I'm subscribed to too. I mean, I am not following literally everybody on Blue Sky to make that assessment. But that being said, it seems to sway more AEW, probably as a trauma response to being harangued on Twitter. But most of the people who I saw that were watching Royal Rumble really, really liked it for the most part. I mean, there were a couple of people who I think were probably just biased regardless, but yeah, I mean, it tends to, what I tend to see tends to line up with what we've been saying the last few weeks about, having really good content for us to discuss.
Yeah, it's been really nice. And yeah, we'll talk about it a little bit later in the show, but the Royal Rumble was really good. I did notice that a little bit. There's still. I mean, once we've crossed like a lot of users on Blue Sky now, so I mean, we're gonna get some of the tribal lists. Some things aren't gonna be caught by the block lists and stuff like that. We're gonna get some bias. And I understand that because I mean, it was coming to Blue Sky was a trauma response for me too, even being a WWE fan, kind of.
Yeah.
It's terrible over there in the other place. So, of course, but there is a pretty nice little WWE community over here, and mostly positive people. I mean, they call out what needs to be called out, and we talk about wrestling when it's time to talk about wrestling, and it's nice, small but nice, and there's still plenty of good people there that are here with us. So, but yeah, I mean, gosh, man, AEW was kicking ass this week. WWE was kicking ass this week. I don't watch TNA, but I'm sure they were kicking ass. It's a bug. It's like an infection going around wrestling. Like wrestling's kicking ass right now.
Yeah, it hasn't really since done like this where there were multiple companies, hit firing on all cylinders since like 1997, 98, really.
Yeah.
Like it's nice to experience this again. I wasn't sure I was ever going to be able to experience that again in my lifetime. I thought that was like one of those historical events that you just kind of live through and you tell your kids about. It's like, oh man, back in my day, there were two companies and they were both awesome. Now, I mean, I'm raising two kids. Like neither of them seem to be interested in wrestling yet because they're real young. But um, I'm kind of excited to share that with them when they're of an age where they're probably going to be more interested in it. Because if this continues, they're going to be spoiled for choice.
Yeah. I really like that we're spoiled for choice. And Indy's picking up really well right now. So you can pretty much go anywhere and see a nice wrestling show or watch it on TV. And
Yeah,
it's a good time to be a wrestling fan. So,
for sure. Absolutely.
yeah. Well, with that said, we're going to go ahead and get into our lockup. I'm going to leave a few.
If you're wondering where else you can find the Smark Foundation podcast, you can stream our show on Pandora, Spotify, and nearly anywhere else you normally stream your podcasts from, including our home at rss.com. We're also on YouTube, featuring not only full episodes of our show, but individual segments from each episode for easier content digestion. For any of those outlets, just type Smark Foundation Podcast into the search bar to find us. If you'd like to interact with us directly, we're very active on our new social media home, Blue Sky. You can contact the show at smarkfndnpodcast.bsky.social for general pro wrestling or podcast comments. And if you want to get to know us each a little bit more on a personal level, Aaron's personal account is at aaronsmark.bsky.social and Adam's is at adamsmarkfndnpodcast.bsky.social. If you'd like to further support our show, you can visit our shop at smarkfoundationpodcast.printful.me to purchase various merchandise with our show's logo on it. Wear your SFP t-shirt or hoodie around town and spread the word about the show that strives to bring fans together around what's great about pro wrestling today, brought to you by a couple of everyday elder millennial wrestling fan dads. Now back to the show.
Here we are with the lockup. That is our Raw review for January 27th. All right, so it's go home to Royal Rumble week. Start of the road to WrestleMania, technically. Lot going on. There was a lot that went into Raw. So we'll just get right to it. So the first segment I saw about 2/3 of. We'll get to why in a second. But Seth Rollins kicked off Raw. I need Seth to feud with someone different or do something different or something. I need him to be off the Punk train. I really just I need something to stop here. But he comes out, he declares himself for the Royal Rumble. So at this point, Seth is also in. And he's talking about how he's going to win the Royal Rumble, and then he's interrupted by Gunther. And Gunther comes out and he's like, I hope you win the Royal Rumble and then you pick me so that I can beat you. Okay, that's cool. That's pretty much Gunther's MO at this point. He comes out and says, yeah, I hope I get to fight you. Like, you really want to fight me that bad? Okay. He's kind of about it all the time. And then some weird music that I didn't recognize started playing. And those two guys were interrupted by Logan Paul. At which point I hit the fast forward button until Logan Paul was no longer on the television. I don't think this is a controversial choice.
No.
I don't care in the smallest bit what he has to say. So if he's involved in storylines where I'm going to have to watch, I'm eventually going to have to watch. But if I can avoid it at all costs, I will. The only thing I'm looking forward to with him right now is for him to be microphone eviscerated by CM Punk, because I know for a fact that while he might be a natural at wrestling, he will not be able to keep up on the stick with somebody like that. And it's going to be hilarious. So we move on.
Yeah, he's used to talking, but it's talking on a show like this is a lot different than cutting a wrestling promo, especially one pointed at a specific person. I imagine that if and when that happens, he's going to be absolutely eviscerated.
Oh, absolutely. Whoever gets
I'm
it.
okay with that.
Whoever gets it has so much ammunition. So much. Yeah. And if he thinks that they're going to not use it.
Enough ammunition that it really should disqualify Logan Paul from being on this television.
That's true.
To be fair.
Which is why I fast forwarded through most of his segment. So, we go from there. And then, as we go backstage, Sami Zayn runs into CM Punk. And CM Punk's like, hey, I'll see you at the Rumble, and I'm going to be a WrestleMania main eventer. And Sammy's like, oh, well, I kind of took exception to the way you talked about me last week, saying we aren't on the same level, because you're right, we're not. I'm a WrestleMania main eventer, and you're not. And then just kept walking. Like, Sammy is becoming a bit of a savage. I like Savage Sammy. Give me more Savage Sammy. I'll take more of that all day long. So then after that, we've got a World Tag Team Championship match. It's War Raiders versus Judgment Day again. Except instead of Finn Balor, it's Dom Mysterio and JD McDonough. I don't know why they made this choice. However, for everybody who watches social media, this is the match where JD McDonough hit his head.
Oh, yeah, I saw that. Oh.
Let me explain that he hit his head to us, but really what he hit was his head and his neck and his shoulders and his upper back and his lower back and his ass all at the same time on a announce table that refused to fold. That that announce table did not fold. That announce table stood on business. I made a bunch of jokes about how I hope the table's okay because that big ass head and all that. But I have a whole new respect for JD McDonough after finding out that he punctured a lung and broke a couple of ribs in that collision and finished the match afterwards. And he went hard in that match too.
Oh,
So he,
like at that point, like stop the match. Like, I mean, I don't know if you with the adrenaline and everything, he felt just how bad the injury was, but like, holy cow, if that's what it was, like tough guy, but dumb guy. Like at that point, you punctured a lung. You should be dead. Like, stop the match and get medical attention.
yeah. I'm pretty sure he's like my notes don't say, but I'm pretty sure he's even the one that took the War Machine for the finish. So, like, he just crazy. Um,
Well, I bet that earned him a lot of points with Triple H.
I bet it did, but
considering the famous story that Chris Jericho tells about how much respect he has for Triple H for finishing the match with the torn quad. He's like, well, what do you want to do? Do the spot. And like,
yeah,
he did the walls of Jericho on the table. Like, so like, I mean, that kind of stuff. I mean, it's kind of messed up if you think about it for too long. But that stuff is going to raise your stock in the eyes of this particular the people who run this business.
yeah. Then after that we had
so good for him, I guess.
Yeah.
I hope he's okay.
Yeah, I hope he's okay. But yeah, I mean, he tweeted saying he was okay and then gave the extent of his injuries. So I assume that he's fine, as good as he can be, I guess. But then we had Rey Mysterio versus Xavier Woods. We're continuing kind of the LWO and New Day thing. Xavier mentioned before the match started that his family was going to be ringside because they had never been ringside to watch him wrestle before. And then he gets out there and his family's not there in their seats. They're just empty seats. And then about halfway through the match, his family shows up and he goes over to greet them, and it's his mom, his dad, and his sister are standing there for some reason with little Yachty. I don't know why, but then they all unzip their jackets to reveal New Day Sucks shirts. And so now Xavier has also been disowned by his family for being mean to Big E, I guess.
See, like, okay. I was always raised that, and this is probably different than some people and probably the same as others, but like, so this kind of, I don't know, it kind of annoys me because it's like, yeah, I get what you're doing from a storytelling perspective, but like, I was always raised to like keep family stuff in the family. You don't put it on blast on the internet. You don't do it in public. You keep it inside.
Yeah.
And wrestling is very much like that, traditionally speaking, with kayfabe and all that. Like, keep it within the family. You and I, before we started recording, we're talking about the insular nature of, like, how you never, fights happen all the time backstage, and you would never hear about it because it began and ended in the locker room without anybody hearing about it. So like this kind of thing is like, I get where they're going with it, but it kind of rubs me the wrong way. Cause it's just not, it's like, ugh, like I get that he's being a jerk, but like, if it's a problem with the family, keep it in the family,
Yeah.
That annoys me.
So, the only real, I mean, okay, so them distracting Xavier led to a 619. Rey Mysterio takes the win. Nothing real surprising here, except that Cole announced during the match that Zelina Vega as an LWO member is over because she's moving to SmackDown. So I guess the transfer window is still open. I'm not sure. I'm not sure why they're moving her over there. They really didn't provide a reason except for transferred.
I mean, I have a theory, but
Well, then we had oh god, sorry, I was looking for this. Okay, so before the next match, Jey Uso came out, and I thought he was gonna be in a match, but he just talked about how he was gonna win the Royal Rumble, and he had Quavo from Migos out there with him, and he stood. That was it. Like it lasted like 2 minutes. I didn't understand why they did it at all. Maybe because they have to have Jey Uso on the show because Netflix wants him there or something. Not sure, but there we go. But then we come back from the commercial break, which I didn't really see. They showed some kind of video package. And then it's Bianca and Naomi versus Liv and Raquel. And I. Okay, so Dom interfered and Bianca beat up Dom, but that allowed the heels to get the win, basically. Have I mentioned on the show before that I don't like the Judgment Day? Yeah, I think I have.
I can't remember. Having trouble recalling.
So I just don't. The addition of Raquel Rodriguez and moving her and Liv over to the women's tag team division, I don't like that either. Before they start this feud, I would really have preferred them to wrap up what's going on with Jade Cargill and at least let us know who attacked her or figure out or bring her back so she can tell us who attacked her. I don't know what's going on with Jade. With her not being actually injured, because by all reports, she's not actually injured.
Yeah, it's work.
Why are we keeping her off TV so long? And spoiler alert for the Royal Rumble later, she's not there either. So at this point, it's like you believed in her enough to put her on in the women's tag titles with Bianca, and they were a good team. And now you've written her off TV and replaced her with Naomi, and you're not going to help us. And they're still talking about it. That's the thing. Like when we get TV time with Naomi and Bianca, they're still like, we got to figure out who attacked Jade. Well, do you? Are you actually actively still trying to figure it out? Because it doesn't seem like it. Because it just gets one-off mentions in backstage segments and stuff like that, and I don't know what's happening here. I don't like that part at all. There's a lot to like about WWE right now, but there's certain things like this Jade Cargill thing that I'm like, we have to. I know Triple H is kind of more of a long-term storyteller than Vince was. He likes to do things over years instead of PLE to PLE. But we have left this. Now we've left it on the shelf past like a prime point where we could bring her back and say, here's the deal. It's been like 6 months or something. It's been a long time. So, but yeah, so our heels get the win. The match, do I have to say it was short? I mean, at least.
Well, you have now.
At least they're consistent in their problems, I guess. As far as
they're not creating new ones.
Yeah, they're not creating new ones, but they're not really fixing the old ones either. So, I mean, I guess I mean, I would say that the Royal Rumble probably shook things up enough on both sides, men's and women's, that we're going to get some significant developments in this next week as we move into Elimination Chamber and the actual road to WrestleMania itself. But as go home shows, these were kind of just like hit the brakes until the Rumble, man. Like hit them hard. We're going to stand still in traffic right now just for a week. And while I didn't particularly like that part, I was still highly entertained by the show. See, backstage we get Rhea Ripley talking about, who's going to face her. She doesn't know. Royal Rumble, all that. Bayley interrupts her and is like, hey, I could win and I could beat you. All friendly like, but I don't know. I feel like when Bayley's friendly, it's backhanded. I just feel that way. And then she's interrupted by Io Sky, who's like, hey, I'll see you I'll see you Saturday. So I guess there's still beef in the damage control. Um, although I don't know why. Then Paul Heyman comes out. He reveals the WWE 2K25 cover. Of course, Paul Heyman's revealing it, so it's Roman Reigns on the cover. Um, not really a big deal here. I usually don't play these games till like months after they come out, so I'm not really.
Yeah, after
Yeah,
you can get like a used copy for
for like
way cheaper.
$10. Yeah, I'm not
Yeah.
paying $60 for the game, especially because they're usually rife with like server issues and stuff at the beginning, and I'm not doing all that. Um,
Yeah, get the bugs worked out and get some patches and stuff.
yeah, yeah. So, but I mean, I like the games when they're fixed and they work good. They work good and they're fun, you know. But it's the same modes every year and stuff like that. So yeah, Heyman's doing the reveal for the game cover. Don't expect a timely review if you get one on the show, folks. Okay, because I'll play the game eventually, but it'll probably be like months after. Just listen to IGN's review; they do a good job. Uh, but other than that, not much to the Heyman thing. Then he's interrupted by Drew McIntyre, and Drew is like just kind of intimidating him. And Heyman kind of weasels out of it, and that's pretty much it. Then we get Sammy versus Drew, which is why Drew was coming out in the first place. It's time for his match with Sami Zayn. Um, it was a really good match. But of course, as we've seen many, many, many times, they're setting Sammy up to, be the fall guy so that somebody can beat on him a little bit to heat up a feud. Um, Drew wins. Then he goes to attack Zayn, only for Cody Rhodes to show up and make the save. Of course, Cody's from Atlanta, so this is a big deal. Crowd, huge pop, all that good stuff. But then McIntyre attacked them both again. Zayn attempts to give him a hoover kick and kicks Cody. So just like last week when he kicked Seth, now he's kicked Cody.
Oh.
Makes me wonder what they're doing with Sammy. I don't know what's going on. He's becoming more savage. He's kicking the wrong people, maybe on purpose. I don't know what's going on here. Maybe he's going to go heel with Kevin Owens. Who knows?
Wouldn't be the first time. Probably won't be the last time.
Nah, probably not. We then have Penta, or backstage we have Braun Breaker with his IC title. Penta interrupts him before he can say anything and like taps his title and says Zero Miedo, and the crowd's with it. They are chanting Cero Miedo, so that's getting over in WWE too. And so yeah, they're having a little stare down. Penta versus Braun Breaker. Hell yeah, give it to me. I'm kind of with that one. Like that excited me. I was like, fuck yeah.
That's a definite styles clash there.
Yeah. Then we had a Cody Rhodes promo. He interrupted Cody, and they kind of had a little promo off. I really want to see more Cody versus CM Punk, but I don't know who they're gonna make heel. I mean, you would think CM Punk, but I don't know. It didn't look like the crowd was heel, like letting anybody be the heel.
Yeah, I mean the crowd still loves Cody.
Yeah.
But eventually, the longer his reign goes on uncontested, the longer fans are fickle and they're impatient. And if they think that they're getting more of the same, they'll quickly turn on it. I mean, John Cena experienced it. Whether the history books want to acknowledge this or not, Hulk Hogan was not getting the cheers in 1993 that he was in 1985.
No,
for sure.
Not even.
I mean, he certainly was not as popular in WCW at the beginning. The whole reason he even considered turning heel and joining the NWO is because he'd done pretty much everything on the top of the card in WCW. And it's like, well, what else is there to do?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it happens to everybody. Every top babyface, eventually the fans get bored of them. It's just in the nature of long, dominant top babyface reigns. That's all there is to it. So the longer they have this go on with him retaining, the more likely it is that they're going to want to switch him to heel if they're smart.
Yeah.
But he could always lose the belt and then shake it up that way and then chase again, and the whole thing kind of resets to a degree anyway.
Hmm.
You can kind of prolong it that way. um I know Punk is far more comfortable as a heel than he is as a babyface. He said that on several occasions. He's just kind of a natural instigator and crap stirrer. Just by his own admission, he just he's always likes pushing buttons. So being a heel comes more naturally to him. I don't think the WWE fans, are ready to turn on him just yet, though, because he's not there as often as Cody is. So you can prolong that by extending the absences between appearances. So I mean, I don't know. I mean, you could if their plan is to go that route for WrestleMania, you could do a babyface match.
Hmm.
You could do that. And
Yeah.
heck, if you're feeling spicy, you can go into that with two finishes and pick just like the 1994 Royal Rumble. You could have basically whoever's getting the most cheers decides who wins in the end. I
Yeah.
mean, if you want, I mean, you can't really lose with either one of them on top right now, to be fair. So like, why not go in there with two finishes in mind? Have you'll have the match that you have up to a certain point, and have Triple H in the earpiece of the ref be like, okay, we're going with such and such based on how the crowd is reacting, and then go to the planned finish for if that person wins.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's ever been done before, but I mean, WWE is on top of the world right now. They can afford to take some risks.
Yeah. Yeah. They can. So I mean, effectively, Sammy and Drew were the main event, and so this was just kind of like an after the main event promo. So a promo as the main event, but it really was just like kind of an exclamation point on what was. I mean, I didn't expect much wrestling wise. Being a go home show, they really like to keep the wrestling light whenever they're about to do a big PLE, which I totally understand.
Especially with the Royal Rumble where everybody's going to be in the ring.
Yeah.
Like, literally everyone.
So I mean, it's it's it was kind of light on the wrestling, but all the promos were really good. All the interactions backstage are really good. This promo between Punk and Cody, this is what I want at WrestleMania. I don't know what they're going to give us, especially now with Jay winning. I'm pretty sure he's going after Gunther, but I don't know. We won't know until
Spoilers.
this week. So, I mean, here he is. I mean, but Raw was really good. As far as like doing a good job of going home for the Rumble. They did everything they needed to do, and it was a really good show. So I think with that said, we can get onto our shine.
All right, here we are with the shine. This is AEW Dynamite from January 29th, 2025, the Von Braun Center in Huntsville, Alabama, and I sure hope that's not named for Werner Von Braun, but oh boy. I bet it is though.
Let's not
I bet it
ask.
is because NASA's in Alabama and stuff, and oof. But that guy was a Nazi, so
He were nasty.
yeah, complicated stuff our aviation programs in the 1950s and 60s. By the way, a free plug. If you've not seen the Apple Plus series um, uh, For All Mankind, you should definitely check it out. Very cool alternate history kind of thing. Premises: the Soviets get to the moon first, and like 2 months before the Americans would have made it, and things just butterfly from there. So it's very very good. It's I think the new season, I think it's later this year sometime. It'll be season 5. It'll be great. Anyway, now enough talk about Werner von Braun. We're gonna talk about AEW Dynamite, which started off with Will Ospreay versus Brian Cage. Brian Cage came to make a point, I think, because he doesn't get these opportunities anymore. Like he's in the tag team, but he's been on TV, but he's never really been a focus. So I feel like he's one of those guys that he always shows out when he comes out, and he does. Will Ospreay is the perfect opponent for him because he's a flippy guy who's still like it's still impressive for him to get thrown around because he's got some mass to him still now, and Brian Cage looks like you know an action figure from 1987. So he's doing things like catching in midair for suplexes and all the crazy feats of strength and stuff. Everybody looked great here. What I thought was interesting was that for the second time inside of a month, Will Ospreay gets the finish with the Styles Clash. I was kind of surprised at that. I mean, like it was great. Like I mean, at one point he survived an avalanche F5. Like, so it was a great comeback. Uh, but like he kind of got it out of nowhere after flipping out of a clothesline. It gets him the Styles Clash 1, 2, 3, and then of course they beat him down afterwards. Um, I think maybe that's why they didn't go for like a finish, like a hidden blade, like or whatever, because maybe they wanted to give Cage some kind of saving face thing so that he could contribute to the beatdown later. I don't know, but yeah, Archer hits the ring, and then Omega hits the ring, and then Fletcher and Takeshita are there, and they hit stereo tombstone powder variations, and it's just, oh well, the numbers got him. Ha! This is going to be the same thing throughout the entire thing because there are only two of them against the entire Don Callis family, and now they're teasing a fifth guy. Well, six if you count Don Callis himself. So like, we gonna give the baby faces some friends here or not, guys? Like, what's going on?
All
But
the
I mean, the
baby
match
faces
itself was good.
possible friends are fighting the Death Riders right now.
That's true. It's
Which
true.
Will even talked about. He was like, I would be fighting the Death Riders, mate, but these assholes keep getting in my way.
I loved that they did that last week. I was like, oh, finally, like somebody kind of addresses it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, at least.
and it is convenient that Darby isn't there to call him out on it too, since he was the one who was like, hey, you really should be in this right here. But now that he's not there, nobody can really be on his back about it.
Mm,
So like it's convenient for the storyline.
yeah.
Um, what was more interesting, I mean, and I'm invested in this stuff too. It's Will Ospreay. I'm gonna be invested in his stuff. It's Kenny Omega. I'm gonna be invested in his stuff. But what was more interesting to me was what happened directly after that because Renee's in the back and she's trying to find Swerve Strickland, and all of a sudden, here comes Hangman Adam Page, blows past Renee because he has no time for Renee anymore. I'm sorry, Renee. Like I love you, but like it's Hanger and he's right and you're wrong. Sorry, I just um, but he burst into Swerve looking for why was Paige looking for Swerve? I thought he was like trying to bury that. Like, oh, this is interesting. Like that alone set Blue Sky on fire faster than he set Swerve's house on fire.
Yeah.
Like, it was like, what? It's monumental kind of stuff. But he is not there. Swerve isn't there. So he just like, ugh. And Paige bumps into MJF on the way out. I love the way that they make these. Everybody's bumping into each other backstage because it's like a real world back there,
Mm-hmm.
a real world setting. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, of course you're gonna bump into this guy and this guy, because everybody's back there. Not everybody's out there in the ring. If they're not out there in the ring, they're probably in the back somewhere. Like
Yeah.
you never know who you're gonna bump into. It's a small arena. Um, but yeah, he just kind of looks at him and then just moves past him, and MJF kind of curses him out a little bit, and then like heads back to Renee. He's like, "Oh, there's a microphone in front of my face. I get to speak. Great, wonderful. I'm MJF. That's what I do." And he just after kind of taking a dig at Hangman, he decides to dig a grave for Jeff Jarrett. Uh, so he's like, yeah, tonight's the last Outlaw's last ride. I'm like, I'm pretty sure I heard that somewhere before. Like, I'm pretty sure we heard that like before WrestleMania 20. or not 20, for in 2020, whichever the one that one was, 38, 36, whatever it was.
37.
The weird one with the boneyard match. Uh, but yeah, so that was cool. I liked that. I like where that's going because it's involving multiple people and it's drawing everybody in together. It's like, what could Adam Page come after all this time, after beating him in the lights out match and having like, what could he possibly want with Swerve? I have a hypothesis, but I have no, that I want to. I know what I want to see. I want to see him get back in Swerve's path because he doesn't know who. After what happened with Christopher Daniels, he doesn't know who he is anymore if he's not beating the crap out of Swerve. And if he beats Swerve again, this time on the record, maybe it'll put him back on the path that he thinks is the right way to go.
Maybe.
But well, I also like the suggestion I saw on Blue Skies, like maybe tag team partners after they make up. Be interesting. The most dangerous men in AEW teaming up together. Interesting. I don't hate it. I don't prefer it, but I don't hate it.
You know, if they were on a team, even as the two most dangerous men, that would allow Swerve to kind of lighten up a little bit. And wouldn't it be great if it was like a buddy comedy where Hangman is the grumpy straight man, but
Yeah,
Nana is more of the comedic relief half of it. Like
yeah.
he's just fed up
They're
with
both
that damn
so serious.
dancing,
They
but
both take each other so seriously. But then Nana is back there doing Nana things, doing the dance, shilling his coffee, making sure that Hangman doesn't steal his weed again.
hey,
I
it
still
is
can't believe that
plants.
in kayfabe canon that actually did happen. He did actually steal Nana's weed that he got from some teenager in a parking lot of a high school. Oh, love it. Okay, so all right, we got to talk about this match. This is probably the low point of the night. Jeff Jarrett versus Claudio. The thing I didn't like about it was not that they cheated to win. I don't mind. They're heels. The Death Riders. It's what they do. They do it not necessarily because they have to, but because they can at times. That's fine. I This is my bias showing, okay, and I will readily admit that. But what the heck was Claudio doing selling so much for Jeff frickin' Jarrett? Like, this is Claudio Castagnoli. He is John Moxley's right hand man because he's a destroyer, and he's selling those stupid punches and chop blocks from 56-year-old or whatever he is, Jeff Jarrett. Come
I mean,
on.
okay.
I don't believe it. Nobody
It
believes
is
it.
apparent
It's
that
garbage.
Tony Khan has a very healthy respect for Jeff Jarrett. And he wants to send him out good. I mean, look at the out he gave Sting. Okay. At least Jeff isn't no selling everything. Okay. I mean, at least that.
No, I get
Okay.
that.
But
Like,
but
it made Claudio. Claudio has been presented as a freaking killer, as an absolute monster, and this was not that.
you see, in an alternate timeline, a correct choice was made.
Yep.
And at the end of this match, after he loses, which I don't disagree with him losing to Claudio. Of course he's going to lose to Claudio. But in the correct timeline, after this match, Claudio and Wheeler Yuta are beating up on Jeff Jarrett, and this draws Jay Lethal into this feud. And now Jay Lethal has a bone to pick with the Death Riders. AEW has a new team member on Team AEW. And
one we haven't seen on TV for months and months.
And you tell me when I'm telling lies, Jay Lethal and Claudio would be a freaking banger.
That would be great.
So
I mean, that would be great. like I have some issues with Jay Lethal too, but I mean, guess what? Like I have issues with most wrestlers because most of them are dirtbags. So I mean, he was named in Speaking Out too. So
Was he? I didn't know that.
yeah, yeah, I believe it was I think it was passing nude photos around, if I'm not mistaken. Um, but I correct someone, one of our followers, correct me on Blue Sky if I'm wrong about that, because I want to say that's what that was, but please correct me if I'm wrong. I would love to be wrong.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I just the match was nothing special because Jeff Jarrett matches are nothing special ever. Uh
Poor
again,
Jeff.
like my friend George says, he's the world's most okayest wrestler. I mean, he's in great shape for his age. I'll give him that. Fantastic shape for his age. And he can still tell a story, but he's not interesting in the ring. Like he's punch kick. He's very very Tennessee. Punch kick a
I mean, they were in
palooza.
Mid South, man. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, yeah.
of course they were going to set up a
I mean,
Jeff Jarrett match
the
in Mid
crowd was
South.
behind him. They definitely chose the right place to have this match
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah, they did.
But yeah, Jarrett struggles to get to his feet afterwards, but MJF comes in and blasts him with the dynamite diamond ring, and he's like, "Yeah, I respect my elders, so I won't say I told you so." And then he
Which
leaves.
is effectively him saying, "I told you so."
Yeah, I mean, anytime anybody says, "I'm not gonna say I told you so," that's them telling you that they
Yeah,
told
they
you
might
so.
as well just say, "I told you so." People do
That's
not.
just being passive aggressive about
Yeah,
it.
don't dance around it. If you're going to say it. Say it with
Yeah,
some chutzpah.
I mean, uh, he's gonna get heat for it either way, so he
Yeah.
might as well be passive aggressive about it and take off more people with that. Anyway, match was next. Ricochet says he wants to have a fancy sit down on Collision with Renee next week. He doesn't want to do it here. He wants to get dressed up and do it. So we'll see that on Collision. That sets that up. And then AR Fox versus Ricochet again. Like I said last week, love me some AR Fox. Because of the shared history that all three of these guys have, everything had meaning and purpose. This is probably the match of the show. Uh, you know, again, not commenting on the man that Ricochet is, but the performer he is I mean, he's still incredible in there. And this new attitude is much, much more of a character than he's ever been allowed to show anywhere. I like too that I think this was probably, I suspect that this was probably uh a respect thing from Ricochet to AR Fox because uh he hit two finishers on him to put him away. He had the spirit gun and then the vertigo. So it's like,
Yeah.
okay, I know one isn't going to do this. So I need to be sure about it. And so he does it too. And technically, if you want to be technical about it, you could make a case for three since he used the code breaker in WWE too. So he did three in a row
Yeah.
if you want to look at it that way. So mad respect to AR Fox from Ricochet in the storytelling of it. Um, but yeah, after the match, we were gonna get some scissoring and not the fun Anthony Bowens kind. But Swerve is out here. Swerve is here to make the save. He attacks Ricochet and he just beats the crap out of him for like 90 seconds or so. And then Ricochet does this again. I hate to praise him because of the stuff that came out recently about him, but like he he grabs Fox and he holds the scissors to his throat like he's gonna do it to get Swerve to back off because remember last week Swerve and Fox shook hands after the match, so they're cool now. So
Hmm.
it's like, oh, like, and I thought, man, that's a great bit of cowardly heel business, isn't it? Like, oh, that's. And then later on Collision, we'll see that they actually kind of followed up on that by it's like it's not so cut and dry that Ricochet is this character is a cowardly heel because it's not that simple, and I'll cover that in a little bit. But all in all, I thought it was a great match and a great segment afterwards. Thumbs way 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 up to this.
Yeah.
Uh, if Ricochet is gonna be on my TV, at least he's entertaining me. I'll take that. That's fine. And AR Fox is getting involved 2 weeks in a row. He's been on my TV. I can't hate on that at all. Ooh, they set up some stuff. Jay White versus Wheeler Yuta is just kind of there. Like, it was okay. It wasn't awful. It wasn't. I wouldn't say it was boring, but it was just like, like it's. One thing I would say that I would like to see from Wheeler Yuta is different gear. Like, the Death Riders have a certain aesthetic, and he doesn't really fit with the gear that he wears. Like, I mean, Pac wears like the most basic of wrestling gear. It's black trunks, black everything, knee pads, kick pads, boots. Okay, that can fit in with anything. But everybody else is just like, I'm gonna wear a white a white A shirt or whatever they call it. I can't call it the two names that I know it as because both of them are offensive. I mean,
it's oh man,
it's true though.
Yeah,
I mean, I can't call it a wife beater, and I can't call it a guinea tee. So, like,
I've never heard it called a guinea tee. Wow,
I've seen it written on the package that way.
What?
I'm like, yeah, that's the only way I know of that one.
Oh my god!
Like, I was like, oh, like I'm sure
they call them
hope
A shirts on the packages.
A shirts,
but they
now.
definitely call them wife beaters. I mean, that's
yeah, like that's the colloquialism, but I don't feel comfortable, calling them that anymore.
But yeah, that's what.
I'm not that person anymore that doesn't care about it. Yeah. I care a little bit too much now. But yeah, all of them like wear A shirts now. Yeah. Like it's A-shirts and even Claudio boots. With his like I don't know. Wheeler's just a little bit still too colorful.
Claudio's got his jacket with the ripped up Constitution on it or whatever that is.
Yeah, what is that? I read something somewhere that's like
said what it was.
Is that like a Warhammer reference or something?
Maybe, I don't know.
Warhammer 40,000. I want to say something. I thought I saw something online.
I would love
regarding
someone to fill me in on that if you are either into Warhammer
because it looks cool.
Yeah,
it looks cool. It's got the wax seals on it.
Yeah,
which I always think that's a really cool aesthetic. I still wish we sealed envelopes with wax simply because I think it's awesome.
Word.
But it's classy. It's classy. But yeah, like I just wish you to kind of match the aesthetic a little bit more of the group.
Yeah.
Like, or if he's not going to go that way, I mean, he's definitely trying to appropriate everything about Bryan Danielson. So why not dress like him too? If you're not going to dress like the rest of the group, how about you dress like Bryan Danielson? Because you're growing out the hair, you're doing the Bisaiku knee, you're doing the cattle mutilation, like you're trying to appropriate his role in the group.
Man, with that hair right now, I feel like he's trying to appropriate a sheepdog.
It's pretty long. It's very shaggy dog.
Dude, I saw the picture of him the other day. I was like, my gosh, guy, life is only pain.
Yeah. He's in his emo phase for sure. But yeah, Jay White hits the Blade Runner off of a Busaiku knee attempt for the win in second Blade Runner for good measure because screw Wheeler Yuta.
Yeah.
John Moxley comes in though, and they put the boots to him, and you know how it goes. Then Cope comes out, Radio FTR there, yay! And they make the save. At that point, Dax gets on the mic and cuts a promo about something other than his family, which is great, awesome, little versatility. Don't get me wrong, I love Dax. I love Dax Harwood, but there's so many times you can hear the same promo before it gets a little stale. So but yeah, do not misconstrue that. I love Dax Harwood. I'm ride or die for Dax Harwood, mostly not because of his talent, but because of how open he is about his struggles with mental illness. Like anybody who opens up that side of themselves as somebody who has struggled and continues to struggle with mental illness chronically, like that's something that's really going to make you very sympathetic in my eyes. Like him, and like that's one of the reasons I'm a huge Eddie Kingston fan. I miss you, Mad King. I miss you so much. Please come back
Right?
soon.
You're
Get
exactly what we
yourself healed
need
up
right
and
now.
come back. I love that guy. That man. As soon as he walked through the door to challenge Cody, I'm like, who is that? Like I'd heard of Eddie Kingston, but I'd never actually seen him. And I'm like, holy cow, who is this guy?
Yeah.
And then he a little while later he wrote that article for, I don't know if it was Rolling Stone or it was, or I don't know what it was. It was, he wrote an article about his struggle, and I'm like, oh man, a lot of this stuff is ringing a lot of familiar bells. And it's like, how can I not be behind that guy? And Dax is the same way.
Hmm.
Like I'm very much an advocate for people improving their mental health and destigmatizing mental health issues. Um, I have people in my life who struggle with mental illness on the daily, various levels. It's really important to talk about. It's important to bring it to a public forum to talk about in a way that normalizes it. And Dax is one of those guys that does that, and very much opens himself up to criticism for it too. Like his, when he was doing his podcast, he opened up his soul about that kind of stuff, and there were a lot of insensitive people who basically chased him off his podcast because he dared to do so, and that sucks.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't have happened that way, and you know that just further entrenched my support for him, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, because now he's a victim of bullying on top of that from a whole bunch of nameless jerk offs online. So yeah,
Yep.
so he gets on the mic and he's like, oh, what really ticked me off was when you uh gave a concerto to Ricky Morton, you know, one of the best tag team wrestlers of all time, blah blah blah. He said Dennis Condrey is here, though they didn't pan to him.
Yeah, I didn't see
Like, they
Dennis
didn't.
Condrey.
It's like, what? Midnight Express are here? What? What? And they didn't show them. It's like, why would you say that if you weren't going to pan to them? I don't know. Was he in the back visiting? I don't know. Whatever. You go from the Rock and Rolls to the Midnights, and he's like, well, you know what? We're gonna elevate this, so we're gonna challenge you to a Mid South street fight on Collision, because a street fight isn't a street fight unless there's a something in front of it. Mid South, St. Louis, Chicago, something. A street fight just ain't a street fight unless it's a this location street fight.
Everybody gets a street fight.
You get a street fight. You get a street fight. You get a street fight.
Yay!
Um. Uh. So yeah. TBS Championship main event of the show: Mercedes Moné versus Yuka Sakazaki. Match was good. Not as good as some of the. I'll say this. Yuka adds a very unique style to any match that she's in, and I think it may be kind of difficult to adjust to because she's coming at you from so many different angles and does so many unique spots. Um, I'm wondering if maybe the chemistry just wasn't quite there. Like, you could see it, you could see the potential there, but just a couple of timing things were off. If they ran this back, I'm sure it would be, they would iron those out and they'd have a banger. But this was good to okay, or okay to good. Um, and comes with the moneymaker from Mercedes Moné, and it actually looked okay this time, kind of a little bit. Like, I'm still not a big fan of her using that move, but at least she wasn't doing it on somebody who was way too tall for her to be doing it on. uh, but yeah, the show quickly went off the air after that, so it must have been over on time. But yeah, I thought that ending with the TBS Championship was good because Mercedes Moné should be on TV. Uh, and defending the TBS championship on TBS was something that had a surprising lack thereof. And the TNT championship on TNT, like for some reason, like for a while there, the TBS championship was only defended on TNT and vice versa. It was very strange. Like it didn't make any sense. I'm glad that they're correcting that right now. Um, and it looks like we're going to be setting up for Harley Cameron to step into that spotlight. But they're building to it. It's not quite yet. Uh More on that though in a couple of segments because that ends the shine, and now done with the shine. We're going right into the Morton, the guy that we just mentioned a minute ago. We're going into his spot now.
Hell yeah. All right. Now it's time for our Morton spot, which is going to be SmackDown for this week. That is, man, okay. I'm going to get this out right up front. We still got to go back to 2 hours. We have 3 hour program here, and there is only 4 matches on this 3 hour program. This is not a PLE, guys, and PLEs have 5 matches. I don't dig this at all. But we can get into what happened anyway. So SmackDown opens with Michael Cole and Pat McAfee, and I'm like, what is going on? I guess they're hosting SmackDown, but then we got Joe Tessitore and Wade Barrett as our commentators. I don't know what's going on. More Pat McAfee is not good. I hate Pat McAfee. Oh my gosh, he's so bad at this.
He's such a doof.
Yeah, and he's the worst. He's worse than Jerry Lawler, and I don't have a lot of good things to say about Jerry Lawler. So we had Joe Tessitore in the ring. KO wants a interview segment like Cody got, so he's getting one. Owens was just kind of angry about things and, doing his typical spiel about how he's really the world champion and all that. And CM Punk interrupts him. Kind of weird. CM Punk isn't on SmackDown, but here we are. Punk said he didn't come to pick a fight, but he's going to win the Rumble, and whoever, he could come after whoever wins that title. And it could be Kevin Owens. And Kevin Owens, starts insulting Punk, and Punk's like, we are really different. Like, yeah, I haven't been to a WrestleMania main event, but I also haven't lost in the WrestleMania main event. And he's like, I also haven't gotten beaten by Logan Paul. And that kind of got a reaction from the crowd. They were like, ooh, like, ugh.
When did that happen? Anyway,
I don't remember.
Remember that. He doesn't have very many matches under his belt. I can't remember. Why can't I remember when he beat Kevin Owens?
I don't know. I don't remember either. Maybe my brain blocked it out because I don't want to think
trauma response.
That he beat Kevin Owens.
No, that makes sense.
So they were just kind of back and forth on the thing. We might get Kevin Owens and CM Punk. That'd be cool. But there was no violence. Kind of weird for a Kevin Owens segment, but there it is.
Oh, the violence will be later.
Yeah.
That's how you can tell that they're building to something.
Yeah. Punk said he showed up because someone said his name. Kind of like a Joe Hendry tip of the hat there, which is cool. Man, we'll talk about Joe Hendry a little bit later.
Yeah, I'm sure we will.
We don't do it often on this show, but we will today. So after that, we had Jimmy Uso versus Carmelo Hayes. It's been building for a couple of weeks. They kind of had a fight last week, and so they got a match this week. It was pretty good. It was pretty good, man. Like, it was a good match. But here's the thing. They're like trying to build Carmelo Hayes as like this serious contender, but I don't think I've seen him win a match. And this one was no different.
I mean, I'll just echo what I said last week and leave it at that. You can't advertise a guy as him and then have him lose all the time.
Yeah, well,
it doesn't work.
Him is a losing constantly. Him ain't a winning. Okay? So, I mean, I don't know what him is now. That WWE has completely killed my perception of giving yourself that tag. Um, yeah, a match was good. It was a good match. Carmelo always puts on good matches. He looks good in defeat, but he never wins. He's almost like the WWE's Harley Cameron.
Well,
We'll talk about
we'll
her more
get
later.
there.
Yeah. I was super happy. Anyway, then we had Chelsea Green versus Michin. They're still going on with this. This is supposed to be Michin's last shot. That's the way they framed it last week, was that this was Michin's last shot at the U.S. Championship. Piper Niven saved Green and caused a DQ. So there was some funny business here. So that's probably not actually going to be her last shot. Yeah, fair enough. Piper Niven is the best part of this feud. By far. Okay, so she is like taking her role as U.S. champion Chelsea Green's Secret Service agent very seriously.
I love
She even
that.
was wearing a red, white, and blue like 3-piece suit and peacoat.
I didn't even know she was like doing Secret Service.
That's
yeah,
amazing.
she's totally
And I
being the
bet
Secret
she's
Service.
pulling off. She's so good. Like,
She's
I remember seeing
hilarious.
her. I remember the first time I saw her was in the second Mae Young Classic. I'm like, who is this? Like, she looks
She's-
different. She brings a lot to the table. You can tell that she's so cheeky. Like, she's got a
She's
big
funny.
personality.
Like the way Scottish people like are that really sly kind of funny. She's
Yeah.
really funny and yeah, she's just really doing it up with this Secret Service thing, and I love it. I love it. And when she turns on Chelsea Green, it's going to be fantastic. It's going to be a really great feud, I think. And I expect her to come out on top because she's obviously a super strong competitor and doesn't need to be treated otherwise.
Yeah.
And then they're not. They're featuring her, and she's maximizing the hell out of her minutes. And I can't say different. Like, she's killing it right now. It's hilarious.
That's
and it's
good
funny.
to hear.
It's good to watch. I'm enjoying her. I like Piper Niven better than I like Chelsea Green just because, like, I can see like how much effort she puts into this. It like, and I mean, yeah, Chelsea Green does too. I'm not discounting her effort or anything like that. But like, Piper is playing a secondary role, like, and putting in the effort, like she's front and center. So
like
when
Ms.
she
Dow?
finally is, yeah, like Ms. Dow. She's definitely so when and we this isn't the Vince era, so I don't have to worry about that not being rewarded. She is 100% going to get rewarded for that, and she's over. People love it. It's fantastic. Yeah, when she turns face on Chelsea, which Chelsea's kind of a weird heel because everybody kind of loves her because she's hilarious,
Yeah.
but she is a heel still.
People that make you laugh are difficult to root against.
That's
Yeah.
true. That's true. And
It-
but I really like Michin too. So it's like this is a
Yeah.
hard feud, man. Because I like everybody in it, so I'm definitely gonna be watching it, and I'm gonna be enjoying it because I like everybody in it. But I don't know who to root against. Like, I'm not mad that Chelsea keeps the belt. I'm not mad if Michin wins the belt. Piper's just freaking funny. So like, I don't know. Like, this is a weird place for me to be in my wrestling fandom where I just like everything.
Not a bad problem to have, though.
No, it's not a bad problem to have, though. Okay, so after that, we had an 8-man tag match with DIY and Pretty Deadly versus the Motor City Machine Guns and Los Garces. I will repeat it again this week since I said it last week. I am really glad that Pretty Deadly are getting more screen time. Okay. When I first became aware of them, I was like, okay, we've got two guys who are like theater kids and they're super pretty and a little bit feminine, and their whole deal is that they do musicals and they're making a musical about themselves, I guess. And okay, so what we've got here is a couple of chicken shit heels by the wrestling definition, right?
Yeah.
No, we do not. No, we do not. We have two like pretty effeminate dudes who do musicals who will kick the shit out of you. Like, they
It's that
remind
Brett
me.
Rest scene, man. That
They
Brett Rest scene is no joke.
This is exactly kind of where I was going with this. They remind me a lot of the Grizzled Young Vets, the Grit Your Teeth guys.
Yeah.
the way they wrestle and as impactful and as hard hitting as they are reminds me of those guys, but they're like personality wise the complete opposite of the grizzled young vets.
The vets are on Hey EW this week too, by the way.
Oh man, see, I gotta watch that one. But yeah, these guys are like every time they get in the ring that I'm privy to watching it, I'm impressed more. Somebody give them their musical because it's bound to be fun. Because in their segments, they're hilarious, and the best part about their wrestling is that even though they're like super hard hitting, they still play those personalities along with that. So when they do get like slapped across the face or something, they react like a theater kid would react. No offense to theater kids, but we know what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be offensive to anyone. It's really hard when I'm like, these guys are prancing around.
Yeah.
We know what I'm talking about here, guys. Okay. It's I'm not trying to be mean to anybody. I'm not. So I'm not saying anything weird, but they are very effeminate for being so hard hitting. It's a weird dichotomy, but the best part about that is that they make it work so good. They're so good at it. Like it's believable.
It's the best when a character, a wrestler, knows their character inside and out, because that gives them so much more freedom to try new things. Because you know you can be hesitant to try new things if you don't know a character, because it's like, would this character really do that? And so you wind up like psyching yourself out and undercommitting. But when you know your character, you know exactly how they would deliver this line, you know exactly how they would react in this situation. It's very liberating, actually. So you put in the work and you get the freedom.
Yeah. Well, I mean, see, it's weird because it's like at first I thought it was kind of like a Festus thing, like it's a really high class Festus thing. Like they're prancy and musical guys, and then the bell rings, and they're monsters. And then the bell rings again, and they're prancy musical guys. But no, they're prancy musical guys who will kick you in the face.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. Now, add that to the Garzas, who are a good tag team, and Motor City Machine Guns and DIY, who are arguably two of the greatest tag teams wrestling right now. And this was a fun match. It was just fun. It was like, now, but it also furthered the story. And by that, I mean, we got into a situation where kind of Gargano was laid out. Ciampa was kind of taking everybody on by himself. Pretty Deadly ditched him. Like they were like, we're tired of getting treated by crap by you guys, basically, and just ditched out and took off. So it looks like we've got like a serious, like no alliances, like crazy tag division coming up, because we also have to add in Street Profits to this, who have been attacked backstage again, which by people think it's DIY, but maybe not. But nobody's really like pinned on who it is. You know, I'm sure it's DIY. But like, there's like 6 or 7 tag teams that are all in this group that are seriously vying for the title. Like, could have a title shot Friday for all I know. You know, we'll talk a little bit more about this during the Royal Rumble segment, because it does take a crazy turn that I didn't see coming. So, and it was smart too. So it like really added to the flavor of it. But yeah, I mean, basic go home show. Motor City Machine Guns are standing tall. Do the go home math. Here we are. You know. So after that, another Charlotte Flair video package. They really concentrated on her face this time, and she's had a lot of work done since the last time we saw her.
Really? What's different?
Her whole face.
Oh, no.
It's like a whole different face.
Oh, babe. You don't need that.
She got rid of the mole.
Oh, I like the mole.
And changed like her whole face. It's not unpleasing or anything like that. It's not unpleasant to look at. It's just that I know what Charlotte Flair looks like in my mind. So when I see her face now, I'm like, does not compute. You know,
Yeah.
it's just like, yeah, okay. Like I said, it's not unpleasant. It's just, I know what Charlotte Flair looks like in my head, and that's not what she looks like anymore.
Yeah.
So um, then let's see here. WWE aired footage of Triple H being told he's going into the Hall of Fame at this point. So they are putting Triple H by himself into the Hall of Fame. I have seen mixed reactions to this online.
Yeah.
For the record, he should have been in by himself before he was in with DX.
Yeah. Agreed.
Um,
Unfortunately, the timing of it is it doesn't look good on him, and
no,
you can tell the story that Nick Khan and Stephanie sprung it on him. You can tell people that all you want, but there's always going to be this undercurrent of like
he's in charge.
he's in charge. He can
Yeah.
do whatever he wants. He could veto this if he wanted to. He's in charge of creative, which means he's in charge of what gets put on the Hall of Fame show. So if he doesn't want to be on it, ain't nobody gonna convince me that he could just not be on it if he wanted to. This is goes to back to the thing that he did when they first formally introduced the Paul Levesque era, and he famously said, "No, I don't want to be the focus. I don't want to be on TV. I don't want," and then he's on TV all the freaking time. You can't fool me, Paul.
He hasn't been on TV much. The last time we saw Triple H was standing in the middle of the ring at the beginning of Netflix Raw #1, and that's the last time I saw Triple H on TV until the Royal Rumble. So
yep, and then he probably took in the crowd at the beginning of the show, didn't he? He was like, "Oh,
no, actually,
no."
We only saw him when the camera went backstage.
All right, well, I take that back then.
So,
but
yeah,
we
saw Stephanie.
You cannot.
Stephanie
tell
welcomed
me
us to the Royal Rumble.
that guy's ego is going to allow him to stay off of TV for too long.
But let's also recognize, and the reason why I don't like, okay, I get the mixed reactions. I understand people like, okay, you're patting yourself on the back a little bit, but
Horowitz style, baby.
But Triple H deserves to be in the Hall of Fame by himself as a standalone entity, and I have no problem with it because of that. I have now, if he didn't deserve to be in there, I would be screaming to the heavens with the rest of you. But this is where I'm at, where I'm like, he does deserve to be in there. So let's just get that over with now.
Even if you were one of the people who thinks that Triple H is overrated, the fact of the matter is, some of the people who are in the Hall of Fame, Triple H is certainly more deserving than, due respect or whatever, like Coco Beware, or literally any of the celebrities that are in there.
Yeah, exactly. So
I'm not saying there's no place for celebrities who contribute to, WrestleMania moments or whatever. You can have those, but the wrestlers deserve it more. Okay, they always have, they always will, and Triple H is more. Sorry, he's more important than Drew Carey in the wrestling context. Okay, he just is.
Yeah.
So, I think Triple H is, as you can tell, I think he's got that ginormous nose far up his own crack. But, I mean, this, like you said, this isn't something that by the parameters of how they put people in this fictional Hall of Fame, he's certainly deserving by those parameters. So is the timing unfortunate? Yeah, it's not. But like, until he retires fully and is not, an entity that people see on TV anymore or hear about as being part of creative or the business structure of the WWE anymore, are you really going to wait that long? Because that's how long it's going to take for people to say, oh, well, he's just using the opportunity to pat himself on the back and get on TV again. Because that's unfortunately the position that he's in now. So, do I think that he is going to enjoy the spotlight? Yeah. Do I also think that he deserves it? Yeah. Do I also think that the story about Nick Khan and Steph surprising with it is true? Yeah, I do. I absolutely do. But that doesn't mean I don't think that he would get around to it on his own eventually.
Oh, he for sure would have. It would
Yeah.
be next year if it wasn't this one, I bet.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, I mean, I'll be real, but like, yeah, but he
We're
deserves
still
it.
waiting on
So,
Batista. It's like year 3 or 4 now that he's supposed to have gone in, but the pandemic screwed everything up. So
yeah, we'll see how that goes. So anyway, after that, we're supposed to have a women's match between Naomi and Liv Morgan, and here's where the 3 hour problem strikes again because instead of having this match immediately after they say we're having that next, they bring out Tyler Halliburton.
who?
Now that's what I said. I had to go research. I don't know who the hell this guy is. Okay, apparently he's a basketball player for the Indiana Pacers. Okay.
Okay.
Why
Sorry
he
guys,
got
I'm not cool and I don't follow NBA.
yeah, I don't follow the NBA either, and I don't know why this guy got an interview with Michael Cole and Pat McAfee, and why they kept showing him on TV. Like, but I understand that they probably needed to fill some space because they had 4 matches on a 3 hour show, and so we got something like that.
And they're, you know, greedy for any kind of major or minor celebrity attention. Like they'll, you know, I get it.
But that wasn't even the low point because the low point was how they still only gave Naomi versus Liv Morgan like 10 minutes on a show with only 4 matches. Like, why? Like, so, and they were cooking.
At least another 5. At least.
They were cooking hard. Naomi and Liv, like, they got a great in-ring chemistry. They were really going at it, man. But there had to be, a little bit of interference. But Naomi still picks up the win. Kind of 50-50 booking on this one. But the match itself was really good. If they'd have been given like 20 more, 30 more minutes on a 3 hour show, come on, we got time, guys. If they would have given 10, 15, 20 more minutes, Dave Meltzer would have gave this freaking match a star rating. Okay, like it was good. It was really good. We should have more of this, but instead we had a 10 or 15 minute interview with Tyler Halliburton and then a 10-minute women's match. I don't like that. I don't like that part at all. But I
like more
say it every week.
Wrestling show.
Yeah. But speaking of wrestling, we kind of went there from that low point with, the women not getting enough time, even though they had a fantastic match, to probably the best match of the night, The Miz and Andrade.
Wait. The Miz had the best match of the night.
They hit each other's, they were working like Japanese strong style stiff. They hit each other so hard. Yes.
Famously soft hitter, safe worker, The Miz.
They were crushing it, dude. Miz absolutely came up and met Andrade at his level.
He probably felt he needed to.
I guess
because Andrade's not going to change his style for anybody.
Pretty sure Andrade took one of his teeth out.
Oh, wouldn't be the first time.
No, it wouldn't. But yeah, I guess he's trying to prove
AJ knocked one of his what do you call them, veneers out several years ago with the phenomenal forearm.
Yeah.
So
I mean, Andrade won, which I would think would be the case. But they really had a banger of a match, man, and it all looked so smooth. Like Miz is obviously in his years as a veteran.
Yeah.
He knows what he's doing in the ring and he's safe, but it looked like he wrestled this match like he had something to prove. Like he was trying to tell him, like, I'm on SmackDown now and I'm going to be a good asset to this show. And he went up and met Andrade at Andrade's highest level. Like they really had a match, man.
That's great. I mean, Miz is certainly capable of having, like, I still remember, his match with Dolph Ziggler, title for a career several years ago at SummerSlam. And I'm like, oh, this is great. It should have elevated both of them, and it didn't. But but yeah, Miz is capable of a lot, and he's always had that workhorse attitude because he's always had it, since he was a child apparently. But like, he's always been a hard worker and everything. But given like the garbage hazing that he had to go through, from JBL and others when he was first starting, it doesn't really surprise me on a certain level that he would be like rising to meet a challenge like that.
Mm-hmm.
Because
he really did too, man.
He kind of gets off on being rising above people's expectations of him.
Yeah. I man, like I used to really hate the Miz, and it kind of took me a while to realize that like I hate him because I'm supposed to.
Yeah.
And now, like, I see him go into a program. Like, I know there's probably gonna be some great mic work
Yeah.
and probably some really proficient wrestling, if not good wrestling. Because he's a good hand. So, I mean, I wasn't surprised that he was able to meet this challenge, but I was surprised with the way that he's been working lately that he did, like, he didn't slow it down and tell, like, this young kid, you got to work with me. He was like, man, you're fantastic, and I'm going to work with you, and we're going to put on a fucking show and, like, tear the house down, which is exactly what they did. And the unfortunate part about them tearing the house down was that the main event was after that.
Oh, well.
And it was LA Knight and Damian Priest versus Tama Tonga and Jacob Fatu. Now, this had gotten set up earlier in the show. LA Knight swung a chair at Jacob Fatu and he punched it. Like, they were really setting Jacob Fatu up to be like a Superman type guy. Like, he is, but he can work a mic, man. The guy really can work a mic. So give him whatever he wants. I mean, if I met him in a dark alley, I certainly would. So, because he's frightening, legitimately frightening looking, and the way he talks, it's like, man, this dude might like legitimately just beat this guy up. Like he might just really do it. So they had like some kind of in-ring encounter where he swung a chair, Jacob Fatu punched it. It turned into this tag match. And I mean, it was kind of just a real basic back and forth tag match. Damian Priest hit the South of Heaven on Tama Tonga for the pin. So Fatu didn't take the pin. He kind of, he doesn't get hurt by this loss. And then Damian Priest coming into SmackDown now from Raw looks strong still. And of course, LA Knight gets a nice rub out of it, even though he doesn't really need one. He's super over with the fans. I don't know what they're doing with him.
I don't think they know what they're doing with him.
It doesn't seem like it.
He dropped the belt to Shinsuke, who they're not doing anything with.
Nothing.
So,
at least it's like they dropped the belt to Shinsuke, and then they just kept having LA Knight on TV every week anyway.
This is what they do. Every time they do that, give Shinsuke a belt, they do nothing with it. Nothing. He's there. He holds it for several months. Doesn't do any. They don't give him anybody to really work a compelling feud with. They don't give him any moments. They don't give him any opportunities. And then he drops it to somebody who probably is going to have a better reign than he did by default, simply because they're more invested in somebody they know that can deliver a promo in English.
Yeah,
that's kind of all it is.
Pretty much. Though I guess that kind of remains to be seen with Penta. We'll see what they do with him. Not really.
Penta's English is better than Shinsuke's.
It is. And he's done some stuff in English, but he also mixes his Spanish in there too. So we'll see how the WWE plays him. But the crowd's really getting into the Cero Miedo thing. So,
well, I mean, the dude breathes aura. Like, the dude, he's a dude.
And WWE heavily acknowledges his Lucha Underground history, and the fans seem to also.
Well, that plays into the Netflix thing, I bet, because it was a Netflix series. They have it on Netflix. You can go check that out too. Like,
and it's also going to play into the Royal Rumble.
Brand synergy.
Yeah, it's going to play into the Royal Rumble too, and we'll talk about that because it was very, very cool. But that's pretty much SmackDown for the week. Look, everything that was done here could have been done in 2 hours, especially all the wrestling. And if we kept all the wrestling and then got rid of some of the external parts, I would have been fine with that too. We don't need to interview basketball players on SmackDown. Okay, guys? I don't care how big of a fan they are. I don't. If you're going to interview somebody on a wrestling show, let it be a wrestler. Please. Like, give somebody on your roster minutes that deserve to go to them and not to a professional basketball player who's getting paid millions of dollars to play basketball and not be on wrestling. We'll talk more about this exact topic during the Royal Rumble review, but like, pay more attention to your roster. Quit this mixing celebrities into everything. We don't need it. We don't need it. These guys are over. Jey Uso is over without Quavo. Okay. SmackDown as a show is over without Tyler Halliburton, whoever that is. We don't need these things. We don't need them. We need a wrestling show. Like, I would like more wrestling in WWE. Not saying that the wrestling that they have is bad. I just believe that on the weekly shows, not enough. Their PLEs are completely wrestling centric, but their weekly shows are a little bit more wrestling, guys. Just a little bit more. I understand you're kind of the promo company, but just a little bit more. Other than that, everything was good. I really enjoyed SmackDown this week. I really enjoyed Raw this week. So WWE was kind of kicking all the way into Royal Rumble. So, with that said, it's time to get into our hope spot.
All right. So, we know that the Royal Rumble technically started first, but considering it's a bigger show than Collision, this is where we put our hope spot. So, again, Collision was the wrestling centric show. Although they did it continues to do a lot to move storylines forward in backstage interviews and tight little spots. The timing on it is really, really crisp. This was a double taping. So the crowd wasn't as big as they were for Dynamite. They weren't quite as animated as they were for Dynamite. That just kind of happens with double taping. 4 hours of wrestling is a lot. And then that doesn't even count, the dark match stuff, the crowd gets to see before Dynamite actually starts. So it's, it wasn't like the best crowd, but the wrestlers did their job and they got hot for some of it. So yeah, Nick Wayne and Nick Wayne.
Nick Wayne.
Nick Wayne, ladies and gentlemen, continuing to prove that he is just an incredible prodigy. Like, I loved the fact that Nick Sabian, who he was teaming with, finally got on TV in a match. I think this might be the first time he's actually wrestled since joining the Patriarchy.
Maybe, yeah, you might be right.
I mean, they faced off against Hook and Samoa Joe, and I mean, they took advantage. Hook was put in a position that he's not used to being, which is being the face in peril. Like, Hook has been booked to look pretty darn strong in singles competition ever since he debuted, and so this was an interesting thing to see him play the Morton to Samoa Joe's Robert Gibson. Because what are you gonna do? Make Samoa Joe the babyface in peril? What? No. Sabian, they try to do the walk away spot with Sabian doing like a springboard off the top rope. They tried to play it off as the walk away spot, but Sabian just slipped on the rope. Stuff happens, oops. But I like how Shivani tried to play it off, but then a few minutes later, as like they tried to hand wave it, but then Nigel McGuinness, he's all like, yeah, they must have put something on that top rope to make it slippery so that Kip Sabian couldn't land that springboard move. So like both different ways of writing it off, the babyface way of just like, oh, we're going to pretend this didn't happen and that was something else. And the heel way of making excuses for the heel.
Yeah.
It's
Nigel's
just
great at that too.
I thought that was that was just two different ways of approaching the same thing. I wish they had been on the same page so that they could have picked one and gone with it. But I thought it was an interesting, I'm glad it happened the way it did because it was an interesting thing to see happen in real time. Just the two different approaches, the two different schools of thought. Yeah, so like at the end, Hook plays Ricky Morton for a while, and then he finally makes the tag, and Joe just destroys. Like Joe destroys. I think
everything.
He may have hit like two moves on Sabian, and then the Muscle Buster, 1, 2, 3, and then it's over. Yeah, like Joe wasn't getting paid by the hour. afterwards, the patriarchy attacks from behind, and Christian stomps Joe's head into the metal briefcase thing. I don't know if he knows, but Joe's a Samoan. That shouldn't work.
No, he's just gonna be madder
it.
later.
Oh yeah, I'll bet.
Yeah, he just made him madder. That's all.
Yeah, you never really get one up on Samoa Joe. You just make him mad for later. Cope then cuts a promo in the back, and I didn't like the promo. I knew what he was trying to do, but anytime I just have a personal aversion to people saying that, we paved the way for you. It's like, okay, you want a medal?
Yeah.
You've got 12 world titles. I think that's medal enough, don't you?
Yeah.
Like, I just, it rubs me the wrong way because it just, wrestling has evolved and continues to evolve and will always continue to evolve. And that is not to say that you shouldn't respect. What was it? Mustafa Ali said it in a promo a couple years ago. It's like, how can we? How did he put it? I think it was like, how can we respect the road that you paved if you won't get off the road? It's like,
Yeah.
it reminded me of that. And to be fair, Cope's presence in AEW has not been what this promo was. He's helped out the younger guys. He's had matches with the younger guys. He's made them look good. He elevated the TNT championship for a little while after he took it off Christian, which was already elevated because he was holding it. I mean, the only reason he dropped the belt was because he had to for injury.
Yeah.
And he was probably going to make other guys. So I don't want to make it seem like I'm anti-Cope, but I really didn't. I hate these kinds of promos because it's like, first of all, he kept calling Moxley kid, and Moxley is 40. Okay, he's not a kid. He's not a kid. He's younger than you are, Cope, but he's no kid. All right, so like you can cut that out. Secondly, like I just really, really don't think you get over with the AEW crowd by crapping on the styles that they like, even if it's implicit.
Yeah.
And this was, whether it was intentionally or not, whether it was implying it or we're just inferring it without the implication being on purpose, that's what it comes off as. It's like, I'm better than this place, and it's like, and I'm better than you, but I'm better than this place and how it's handling things. It's like, say what you want to about the way Hangman handled the CM Punk situation. Everybody's got a take. That's fine, but I don't think that not your advice is not good just because you've been in the business for a while. Your advice is good based on the merits of it, not whether not because you've been in the business for 20 years. Okay? I mean, Edge is a guy that has had success. If you want to take advice from him, go up and ask him. He's more than willing to give it to you. But like, and it will most likely be okay, good advice. But like, saying, why don't you ask me? It's like, because they were already successful. That's how they got to AEW. They trust in themselves. Yeah. Like, just like you trusted in yourself to get to where you are. So you're a hypocrite for saying you don't respect the business because you won't ask me for advice. Like, it's a garbage argument. It's a rat bag argument. It's so arrogant and up its own butt. Like, I hate it. And this is what this promo felt like. It's like, don't do that. Like, I'm not anti-Cope, like I said, but this was not it.
Mm-mm.
This was not a way to win people over to his side against Mox. There were different ways that you could handle it. This was not the way to go, and I think it's probably going to wind up biting him in the end. I think
Probably.
they're probably gonna have to turn him heel eventually, and probably sooner than they intended, because people I don't think are really gonna resonate with this promo, and they're gonna remember it because AEW fans remember everything. So, but yeah, in any case, he challenged Mox for the world title, which we all saw coming, and it's still the beginning of the year, so it's not like if you were still like following the rankings and stuff like that, our good friends AEW rankings, dot B Sky dot social, he's got Adam Copeland at 2-0 as the number 2 contender. So I mean, because it's the beginning of the year, you can really rocket up the rankings very quickly, but just by getting a couple of wins.
Yeah.
So like, um, yeah, I mean, it's not like he's not deserving of a shot based on that metric, and it was not something we couldn't all see coming. But like, I I don't think that they're going to move the belt to Cope. I think they're going to do it to one of their homegrown stars, whether that's Darby Allin or Eddie Kingston. I think it kind of depends on whether Darby survives Everest. Honestly,
Yeah.
If he does, I think it's Darby. If not, it'll be Eddie whenever he's ready to come back from injury.
Yeah.
Those are the two that make the most sense. I still think it's Darby because they made a point at the very beginning of this angle for Mox to go up to him and say, "You will never be a world champion," which pretty much guarantees that it's going to happen.
Yeah.
The bad guy is tempting fate; he's going to get it. So, those are things that TK loves to put in there. Those foreshadowing things, he absolutely adores it. I adore him for it, because it gives you something to look forward to. As soon as he said that, I'm like, oh, they're gonna make Darby champ. Oh no, it's great. But anyway, it's gonna be a homegrown guy. It's not gonna be Coke that wins the belt, but it's something. It's something that'll get us through anyway, until they finally figure out who they're gonna drop it to.
Mm-hmm.
Adam Priest versus the Beast Mortos, making his return, I think, for the first time since the Continental Classic. I think this was Beast Mortos' first match back, and it was a squash match. Beast Mortos wins handily. He debuts a new finisher. It was what did they call it? Portal to Hell or something like that. I can't remember. Destination Hellhole. That's what it was, and it was like a reverse body slam. So instead of a scoop slam where you're face to face and you pick him up like that, you pick him up the same way, but it's back to belly. So it's like this, and then he dumps him on his head with a pile driver.
Oh.
So, I mean, it sound like he grabbed the waist like a regular pile driver on the way down. So it's not like it was like a reverse Michinoku driver, which would be insanely difficult and unsafe. He did grab him. He was safe about it, but it looked rough, which is great. But after that, Max Caster comes out to interrupt Mortos' celebration, and he calls out his first opponent for the open challenge, and out comes the returning Roosh in gear that was immaculate.
Oh yeah, I love
he
that.
He looked amazing. He looked like a star. Like, oh, he looked like a big freaking deal. He looked like a final boss. It was great. He had all the gold. He had the gauntlets and the big bull mask it was all gold. The big old cape with the shoulder. It was fantastic. And he absolutely destroys Max Caster. So this is one of the best things on the show for me. Max Caster got destroyed by a rando that got called out. The rando turned out to be one of the most interesting performers on the roster. If Roosh can stay out of his own way, because he's his own biggest enemy in there,
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's had start-stop pushes because he's talented, but he always seems to step in his own way and step in a pile of crap that he put there. Um, I if he can keep his nose clean, I see no reason not to push Roosh. And I feel like at the end of the match, he kind of got in Mortos's face. Wasn't able to make out all of what he said because most of it was in Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
And I know a little Spanish, but not a whole heck of a lot. I think probably what he was saying by the tone and the body language was probably like, "Don't upstage me. You knew I was here," something along those lines. But what I thought was cool was that crowd chanted along with his catchphrase. That was cool. I don't think I've ever seen that before for him. You mess with the bull, you get the horns.
He did
They
look
had to
like
do
he
it
didn't know what to
twice,
do with
but
that.
yeah, like
He didn't
it
expect
looked
them
like he
to do
was
that.
yeah, and then when it was only like half the crowd, he asked for it again so that he could get a bigger reaction, which I mean, I thought that was a really veteran move. He's like, okay, pivot. If they're gonna do it, let's have them really do it.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was clever and a good use of the time. Um, Outrunners versus the Learning Tree is next. Um, it wasn't like it was all right.
Yeah.
It was latter era Jericho stuff. Uh, I guess the most surprising thing was that I thought the Outrunners would be pinning Brian Keith, but instead it was the other way around. Behind the uh, Magnum was pulled out of the ring when they were doing the Total Recall by Big Bill and beat up behind the referee's back, and Keith rolled up Floyd, taking advantage of it for the win.
Mm-hmm.
And then afterwards, Big Bill comes in and just absolutely decimates
Dude, yeah.
the Outrunners. Like I would
Wow.
say that this is a bad thing, but this was after they had already had the match. It's not like they were two fresh guys who were
Yeah.
over, you know, being laid waste to by one guy, even if it is Big Bill. You know,
Yeah.
at least they'd been beat up beforehand. But yeah, Big Bill looked great.
Yeah, he did.
But yeah, they were gonna Brian Keith was gonna set up a table so that Big Bill could hit a double choke slam, but then Bandito comes out and does take two of Supercard of Honor, basically, or Final Battle rather. So he comes out. He doesn't concuss himself this time, and he chases off the Learning Tree after beating up Jericho a little bit,
Yep.
and after putting Keith through the table.
Through the table. Yeah.
Next up was Taya Valkyrie versus Harley Cameron, and I freaking called this too. Like it wasn't
Taya.
difficult. That it was Taya. It wasn't a difficult call to make, you know, given what they set up. But it's like I knew it wasn't going to be Deanna, but it would be Taya. Like match was pretty good. I mean, it was back and forth. Taya's kind of slowed down since she got to AEW. Like she was even in NXT, she worked a little bit with a quicker pace. She definitely did when she was in TNA or Impact at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But like she's slowed down a little bit, and she's not the performer that she used to be. So putting her in this spot as taking the surprise loss to Harley Cameron with a roll up, I'm okay with because it's probably the role that she should be playing right now. Yeah, but Harley Cameron gets her first win on TV, guys.
Yeah, man.
Super
Awesome.
exciting. Super duper exciting.
Totally awesome.
The crowd was so into it too.
Yeah.
They were chanting "Feel the Wrath" at various points during the match. They were really really into the finish. It was great. I imagine Deanna is probably next on her plate because she was watching backstage and she threw her chair in frustration once the finish came. I imagine that she's probably gonna take a fluke loss to her too, and then with 2 wins under her belt, Harley Cameron will finally be put in the TBS title slot for Grand Slam, most likely. I got in a kind of an argument with not an argument, but a discussion with people online about whether or not they should switch the belt. I don't think they should. I think that you've got enough Aussies on the card that some of them can lose. And Harley isn't really there yet. Like, I love Harley Cameron. like as a character, I don't think she can. I don't think she can do any wrong. Honestly, she's hilarious. She's entertaining. She's multi-talented. You'll see in a couple of segments here that she got talents that we didn't even know that she had.
Yeah.
But uh, but like I don't Mercedes Monet, especially the last couple of months, has really elevated the TBS title, and I don't want to say that passing it to Harley Cameron would diminish it, but I don't think you can, especially after her 2 matches with Stat being all timers. I don't think that you could really justify moving the TBS belt to Harley Cameron, who is only kind of just now getting into a rhythm of, oh, this is what wrestling in the ring is like. You know, I don't think that's a good idea. And I don't think TK is going to do it either, because TK wants his champions to be in ring worthy. Like, you look at every single list of his champions, and every single one of them, for the most part, were like good wrestlers, you know. And Harley is learning, and she's learning quickly. And I want to give her a huge shout out, because she is adapting very well. Almost all of her matches have been on TV in front of cameras. Like, that is a very difficult thing to learn on the spot. And she has handled that pressure with incredible grace and poise. But I don't think she's ready to be a champ yet. I think she should come closer than Mercedes expects, and then Mercedes still pulls out a win, but kind of like give her the side eye as she walks away, like, I didn't realize you were that good. I need to watch out for you in the future. That kind of thing. I mean, because we know Toni Storm and Mariah May should main event that show. There's no reason it shouldn't.
Yeah.
And Toni should go over in Australia. There's no reason she shouldn't. As long as Toni goes over, I don't think any of the other Aussies losing is going to matter. Kyle Fletcher losing, he's a heel. Doesn't matter. They may cheer him anyway, but it doesn't matter. And maybe he doesn't even take the pin in that tag match. Maybe it's Takeshita, so that they can set up for Omega versus Takeshita for the international title or something. They're setting up Okada and Buddy Matthews. I don't really see Buddy Matthews winning against Okada. They could do it, but I don't see it. Not yet. Not without some more build-up. Without Buddy really ramping up and getting a few more upper-tier wins under his belt. Get some momentum. But, the match will be good. The matches will all be good. But only Toni needs to win. I think if Toni wins, all the other Aussies losing in various ways will be fine. Because Toni is the most over woman on the roster. Maybe the most overall performer on the roster. She may be.
I'd probably argue that,
yeah. So yeah, I feel like, give Cameron the shot. Give her that hometown pop. And man, I'm gonna make a prediction right here. I'm gonna make a prediction. This is gonna be out there, but I think we see, in some way, shape, or form, the debut of the Inspiration on that show.
You mean the Iconics?
The former Iconics. They don't own that name.
Yeah, but
they don't own that name, but they own the Inspiration. It's in Australia. They're both from Australia. I mean, they would have to travel there because they live in America now. But you haven't seen them on TV in a long time. Cassie gave birth, so she's been out there. I don't know what Billy's done, but I think that the marketing is there for them as a tag team, as a tandem. I think that's where your marketing for them is. I think that if you introduce them, you add those two women to your roster, I think you can finally start seriously considering women's tag belts.
Yeah.
And normally I'm not for title expansion, but this is in the women's division, which has different rules
Yeah.
because they have, there are only 2 women's championships where there are 11,000 freaking men's championships. So the men don't need it anymore. The women, on the other hand, if
Yeah.
you add an established tag team like that and take up some of the other ladies who aren't really doing anything, aren't being used on TV, and put them in teams, a lot of them have alliances already. The Vendetta are a thing. You can bring back the Jamie Hayter, Britt Baker thing if you wanted to. Um, you could pair probably Riho and Yuka.
Hmm.
I think that would be a natural tag team. 2 little spunky Japanese women who people often underestimate because of their size. I think there's something there. I think you can make a division out of the women that you have.
Hmm.
I'm gonna make that prediction. I think that we're gonna see the Inspiration debut on this show.
We'll see.
In any case, Ricochet gets his sit down interview, and he says that for years, since this place was formed, people were saying you should leave there and you should come to AEW with this is far more your style. He's like, and you know what? They're right. This was far more to my taste of how I wrestle and this, that, the other thing. And then I get here, and then people don't appreciate me, which is not untrue. The fact of the matter is that in the intervening time, a whole bunch of other guys have come in who do a lot of the same stuff that Ricochet does because they were influenced by Ricochet.
Yeah.
Whether either they are young enough where they grew up watching him, or they were influencing him because they were on the indies together and like, oh, I like that what that guy does. I'm gonna steal that. Like, so uh yeah, he's like, they turn it back on me, the whole thing. Uh, then Swerve comes in, and she's like, he's like, Renee, I can take it from here. So Renee scoots, and he's like, he reminds him about where they've been, CZW, Lucha Underground. He's like, I never really, you and I never really saw eye to eye ever in the last 15 years. He's like, AEW has a way of exposing people for who they really are, which is an interesting way to look at it, I think. It's like, in Ricochet, you dress yourself up as a superhero and they saw right through it. You ain't no superhero. And Ricochet is like, you know what? There's something to that. Uh, I had to pretend a lot for the sake of this business, for the sake of my employment, for the sake of the fans. But, I don't think that you're the biggest threat as you think you are. You haven't been you haven't really been the most dangerous man in AEW since Hangman pulled out your grill. You haven't been the same guy. And is like, you're not really a threat to me. And Swerve tries to like say essentially like, oh, I'm not a threat. He grabs the scissors that were in his pocket and holds them up to Ricochet's throat like Ricochet had him to AR Fox on Dynamite. And this is what I was talking about earlier about him not just being a cowardly heel, because Ricochet barely even registered it. He's like, he looks at him, he's like, what? He didn't say it, but he basically said, like, what are you going to do? Really? You're going to do this? I don't believe you. You're not dangerous anymore. Not like you think you are. The other thing that Swerve said earlier, I forgot to mention, is that he knows he's the villain and he's respected for it, which I thought was an interesting line. He knows he's the villain. He's okay with being the villain, which means he's never going to apologize to Hangman. Ever. He's never going to admit that what he did was wrong. Ever. He's never going to admit that what Hangman did to him was justified. Yeah, you saw that coming. Yeah. Just to let you know, because you can't see the video here, is as soon as I lean into the microphone, Aaron just pulls the headphone away from his ear because he knew I was going to get real into it. But yeah, he's never. So I like that one line is like, okay, yeah. There's no redeeming you. Nope. Just resolve. Just put my resolve right back on Hangman. But yeah, that was a good segment, I think. Tony Storm comes out and she cuts this incredible promo. She's on the stage and everything is dark and she's got these spotlights on her, and she's like, it was so funny. It's like, I don't know if you realize this, but for the past 6 weeks, I've been playing the role of Tony Storm. And everybody's like, no, are you kidding me? That was you. I know. It's unbelievable. I love her so much. But yeah, she basically runs down Mariah, and you should look it up yourself because I'm going long. Match number 6. Oh, no, Harley. Harley is being interviewed by Renee in the hall. She wants to get into Mercedes Monet's dressing room because she doesn't think she's there, and she's a little chaos gremlin, and she wants to ride the money train. But she has a Mercedes Monet puppet. Did you know that Harley Cameron was a ventriloquist?
No.
Because I didn't know that Harley Cameron was a ventriloquist.
Nope.
And she's a good one, too.
Yeah, she is.
She's a really good one.
It was weird.
Like, incredible. And so she was talking, and her impression of a Mercedes isn't that bad either, to be honest with her. Which is interesting because she has to do it through, like, clenched teeth. So, I mean, all the more impressive. So she's like, oh, yeah. So she's interviewing Mercedes, and she's like, oh, yeah, you know what? You impressed me with that win, and you can get that title shot. But then the real Mercedes comes in, and she's like, no, you're not riding the money train. Get out of here. Get out of, I need to get into my dressing room. Which is weird because she didn't have a match. Why are people there and having dressing rooms when they don't have matches?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was there because, it was double taping. But in canon, there's no reason for her to be there. But yeah, Monet thinks she's a loser, and losers don't get to ride the money train. So, not yet, but they'll pull the trigger on it, and I'm excited for it. 3-way match for the AW TNT Championship. Daniel Garcia. They did some really cool stuff. Danny Garcia, Kyle O'Reilly, and Lee Moriarty. They started out like trading submission holds, which I don't think I've ever seen in a triple threat match before, ever. I mean, it doesn't work because why would it? Submissions in a triple threat match are really, really hard to pull off, and they even lampshaded it on commentary. But it was a different way to show off the skills of these three guys. They were trading a lot of holds and stuff like that. What I really liked about this match too was that it didn't follow as closely to the normal formula of a triple threat match as it usually does. There was a lot of all three guys in the ring at the same time beating the hell out of each other, instead of just like, oh, one guy's gonna powder so the other two can do some stuff for a couple minutes, and then the other guy's gonna powder and he's gonna be replaced by this guy, and then it did that a little bit because you kind of have to eventually, but like there was a lot of all three guys going at each other in this, and it was really refreshing. It's why it's important to get those young guys in there, because they're going to be your innovators. They're going to show you something different if you give them the platform to do so. And these guys are all excellent wrestlers. Eventually, Garcia retains. He just uses a jackknife on Moriarty for the win after surviving a Border City stretch. But yeah, it was good. It was another nice win for Garcia. They're still building him. Shane Taylor Productions hits the ring afterwards, and like all the Kyle and Garcia have to kind of fend them off. But then all the other associated baby faces associated with those guys show up. Like Cool Hand Ange appears out of the freaking crowd. He just kind of materializes out of nowhere and joins Matt Menard, who was on commentary, in the ring with them. And then Bebe hits, and it's all about the boom hits, and then the Undisputed Kingdom is in there. By the way, are the Kingdom still part of the Undisputed Kingdom?
I don't know.
because they haven't shown up with them since I don't know. It's
A long
I
time.
need answers. I need answers.
Yeah.
Um. Anyway, the main event was the Mid South Street Fight, and they came out wearing street clothes, which is recipe ingredient number one for a proper street fight. And this was
Amen.
all over the place.
Whew.
I'm running kind of long, so I won't. I'll just say that at one point, John Moxley takes a pair of pliers, and right before the commercial break, goes and just tries to essentially like clip Dax's nostril off or something.
It was
Like
awful.
it was so gnarly. I'm glad they did that right as it went to the commercial. It was like, oh no, I gotta know what happened to Dax. Apparently he was fine. Uh, as predicted, everybody comes in. There's no DQs in this kind of match. So all the Death Riders are in. They're FTR is kind of like fighting them off though every now and then. Jay White and Cope are here at the very 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 last second, and in they fight them off all the interlopers, and eventually, because of course it's Yuta, FTR gets Yuta on the announce table, and Wheeler I think is the one who picks him up for the pile driver, and Dax comes off of the guardrail, jumps onto the announce table with the spike pile driver.
Oh yeah.
And just the way that the table broke, it just looked incredible.
Oh, it was so awesome.
Amazing visual. I loved the finish. It was false count anywhere too, which I don't know if this is a Mandela effect thing, but I feel like all street fights from my youth were falls count anywhere by default, and then somewhere along the line WWE decided it had to end in the ring.
Yeah, basically.
I feel like I don't. Maybe it was just I watched so much WCW and they always had falls count anywhere street fights. I don't know, but yeah, no, it was great. It was a really cool way to end the show. I'm glad FTR finally got a win. After the match, Mox winds up by himself in the ring with all the baby faces. And he takes a Blade Runner from Jay White, a Shatter Machine, a Spear. And Jay White's like, hey, wait a minute. Hang on, I got an idea. He goes under the ring for a second chair because one was already in the ring. And they were going to do the concerto to Moxley before Marina pulls him, or Claudio pulls him to safety. It was like, oh, okay, here we go. This is what I wanted to see. I wanted to see more hope spots, basically. So, I thought it was another great episode of Collision. It ended with the baby faces going over, which was so nice to see the Death Riders lose. I think what should happen is FTR or Rated FTR should win the trios title before Edge Cope faces Mox, so that they're even more momentum and they finally do something with the trios title. But then Cope fails to beat Mox for the world title.
Yeah.
That way their program can end, but they still have trios champions who presumably would defend the belts more often.
Yeah.
And it looks like they're trying to build the trios division back a little bit with Undisputed Kingdom and all them. So
yeah,
hopefully that'll materialize.
Hope so.
In any case, that's it for the Hope Spot. And now we go to the hot tag.
Hot tag, baby. All right, time for our hot tag, and that is going to be the Royal Rumble 2025. So this might be kind of short, or it might be, I'm not sure, probably going to be pretty short, just because there's only 4 matches, 2 of them are Rumbles. I don't have to explain much to anybody how much I love Rumbles and, doing that kind of stuff. So, I love the Royal Rumble. This is my favorite event of the year. I like it better than WrestleMania. AEW Blood and Guts is a very close second because that's kind of like our War Games successor. But I also really like War Games when WWE does it. They do it a lot in NXT and they do it on main roster now, and I like it there too. So, but that's kind of secondary. Royal Rumble is my first love and always will be. I love the Royal Rumble. Like when I was a kid, the coolest thing was like all these people in this match. Like, oh my God,
Yeah.
look how many people are in the match at one time. And that feeling of how cool that was never wore off for me. I'm 41 years old and I still think that's like the coolest shit. So, yeah. So, for this one, we had, the women's Royal Rumble kicked off the show. Um, we had pretty much a murderer's row of all the best women between Raw and SmackDown, as well as Roxanne Perez, Stephanie Vaquer, and Jordan Grace showed up as a WWE signee. So she's now officially with WWE, and she showed up, and that was kind of a surprise. As far as we had Julia also, and then Trish Stratus for kind of like the veteran surprise. She showed up wearing her old TNA gear for when she was Testin Albert's manager.
Huh.
So
That's
yeah,
a choice.
it was a choice for sure. It wasn't very flattering. But she wrestled. She was in there for a while. Everybody kind of was. Nia Jax was number 29, which I was like, oh man, here we go. And she eliminated a lot of people. Like at one point, there was like 17 of them standing on the apron, and she just hit the apron, and everybody kind of fell off. And that included people like Bianca and like Candice LeRae and stuff like that. So it was weird. Alexa Bliss returned and got the biggest pop of the night by far. Entire show.
Really?
Entire show. Yes.
Good for her.
It was insane. Like she got a really great pop. Charlotte Flair came back at 27. And I was like, okay, she's back at 27, so who's 30? 30 ended up being Nikki Bella. Which I don't like it. I don't like that at all. Like if they're gonna give me a surprise at 30, it needs to be a surprise. Like something like AJ Lee would have been way better in this spot right here. And now I understand Nikki Bella said some stuff in recent interviews about wanting to come back to WWE, and I'm not saying don't do that. Follow your heart, do whatever you want to do. But don't take a very important Rumble spot from like a real contender right now. And don't assume to be one just because you show back up.
My question is, like, given everything that's come out with the Grant lawsuit, why would you even want to step foot back in the place if you're Nikki Bella of all people?
No idea. No idea at all. No idea.
I don't get it. I mean, it's her life, it's her decision. That's fine.
Yeah.
But like, I couldn't imagine if I were in her place and my one-time stepfather had been revealed to have done the things that were done. I don't think that I would be able to justify stepping foot back in the place.
Yeah.
Because I know what would have been going on behind my back.
Yeah. So, but regardless of where she came in at the Rumble, it didn't end up mattering because Charlotte Flair wins.
Unsurprising.
As soon as she declared for the Rumble in the vignettes, I knew that this was happening. So this was not surprising.
It was the Batista treatment all over again.
Yeah. The match was good though. I mean, she got a good pop, but she's going to face Tiffany Stratton, who's incredibly over. So we'll see how this is going to go. The last two though were Charlotte and Roxanne Perez. Roxanne Perez went from like number 3 all the way to the end.
Roxy, good.
She was over
her. Oh man,
it was she really put on a performance.
Her
and Io Sky were both in over an hour. And I got to give it up for both of them. They put on real performances. They worked really well as what we call ring generals when we're putting together battle royals. You send people in at certain places to do certain things, and most of it is controlling the match. The fact that they were in there so long means that the WWE doesn't just have faith in their ability in the ring. They have faith in their ability to help everybody get where they need to be for certain things.
And it's
And
so telling
for
of
an
Roxy because
NXT
she's
talent,
so young.
for her to be that young and be an NXT talent who is obviously going to be called up to the freaking main roster soon,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
that shows incredible trust. And that's a big deal. A big deal. A lot of other people are just going to make a big deal about the time. Um, I also have to bring in this business part. This is a big deal backstage. This is going to be a way bigger deal than just than just her being in there for an hour. It's that they gave her that amount of trust in a match like this, because it really
Yeah.
does matter who's in there for a length of time. It's not a contest so much as it's a chess match.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this was fantastic. It was really well done. But called the winner from a mile out. Like no surprises
Oh
there.
yeah.
Um,
No.
this is one of many Royal Rumbles that I've watched where the surprises in it surprised me legitimately. Like Alexa Bliss showing back up after recent reports that her contract negotiations weren't going well. Um, and then
Yeah.
which was
That
probably
was
a
probably
complete red
Planta's
herring.
story.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm thinking that
Planta's
they're.
story.
I'm thinking that WWE and maybe even AEW to an extent feeds the rag stories that they run with, so that and a lot of times they do it to set up storylines because a lot of that stuff ends up on TV. But Alexa Bliss coming back, like that was kind of, we didn't think that was going to happen. That was super surprising. Trish showing up, always a surprise, even though it's not like out of this world that it would happen. Nikki Bella was a surprise, but not a good one. It just wasn't. But yeah, called the winner from a mile away. From there,
See, like if you switch the numbers between Trish and Nikki, they probably would have worked better.
yeah. Oh, Jordan Grace.
I saw exactly what you're trying to talk
She
about.
picked up Piper Niven and did like a cartwheel Death Valley driver with her. It was freaking awesome.
Incredible. I saw that clip. I'm like, dang, this girl, she's gonna be a thing.
Oh yeah, she's
She's
definitely
gonna
gonna be
be
a
thing.
big thing. Let's see. Charlotte Flair had a ridiculous amount of pyro on her entrance, and even Wade Barrett on commentary was like, "Pyro on a Royal Rumble entrance? You must be really important." Like,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
you're not wrong, bud. Okay, so next match was DIY versus the Motor City Machine Guns, 2 out of 3 falls for the WWE Tag Team Championships. This was pretty much a basic 2 out of 3 falls match, except the Motor City Machine Guns won, but they will not get the titles because the last fall they won was a DQ.
Okay. Shenanigans. Okay.
The Street Profits showed up. Is that the right team? Am I saying the wrong one? No, Private Parties, AEW, Street Profits, or WWE. I always get the name. Like, I don't get the guys mixed up. I get the name of like the tag team mixed up.
Yeah.
But okay, so Street Profits showed up, and they bean DIY with like their crutches that they're walking on and stuff, and then go to beating on DIY. So MCMG wins the match by DQ from the last fall, but it's because Street Profits want to take the titles from DIY. So instead of costing DIY the titles, they're beating up DIY to have them keep the titles,
so that they can be the one.
so they can take them. Yeah. Smart.
Sounds like we're in for another triple threat match.
Yeah, I think we probably are. But the match itself was very good. They went a really good time for a 2 out of 3 falls match. It wasn't too long. A little bit of shenanigans from Ciampa for that first fall, and then they kind of went into a really good match for the second fall, and then leading up to the third fall was a really good match, a really good match in itself. So, they kind of actually had 3 really good matches. And I think it's probably about 30 minutes, 30, 45 minutes. But not bad. It was really good. I enjoyed it. I had fun watching it. So whatever.
I mean, you don't want a 2 out of 3 falls match to be much shorter than that either.
No.
Like if it's like 20 minutes or shorter, you're like, what was the point of having more than one fall?
Yeah. But in this one, like, I mean, each of the mid matches got about 30 minutes, and then the Royal Rumbles, they really gave them the time they want. They need like minute 15, minute 20, or hour 15, hour 20. Just enough to really get a good Rumble going. Have a lot of people like us. Like in the women's Rumble, it took like, I think number 15 or 16 in the ring before anybody got eliminated.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's a lot.
Yeah, it was a lot. It was like there was a gang of people in the ring before anybody got eliminated. So then after that we had Cody Rhodes and Kevin Owens. And basically this entire match was Cody. I could see him putting it together in my head. Cody goes, "I'm going to put you through this," and Kevin just goes, "Okay," every time Cody says that. And that was pretty much the entire match. Kevin Owens and Cody Rhodes broke off the bottom rung of the ladder and was beating up Kevin Owens with it. There was a ladder that was open, but on its side. So like in like the stiffest position a ladder can be in while open because it's laid out.
Yeah.
And
right.
Cody slammed Kevin on the top part where it's closest together and just stiff as can be. Nasty. As bad as Drew taking that back bump on the stairs in the Hell in a Cell with Punk. Like it was ugly. And then to end the match, he put him through a ladder. Like put him through a ladder, sold for like 5 minutes, got up and really like hard to get up the ladder and like got both titles down and did not look like he was satisfied with the ending. Like because he had taken so much punishment to get there. It was just a brutal fight. It was not a typical ladder match where they were both trying to game each other to get up the ladder. No, they basically completely left that part of it alone until one of them had incapacitated the other. And then he went and like begrudgingly climbed the ladder and took the titles down.
So do you think their goal was to be the first ladder match where the only time they climbed the ladder to reach for the prize was the one time where it was actually going to be grabbed?
It's possible that they did that. Yeah.
Because that's kind of what it sounds like the goal was. Like, I could see that thought process be like, well, what hasn't been done in a ladder match before?
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you what hasn't been done. The only time somebody climbs the ladder is when they win the damn thing.
Yeah, and I knew Cody Rhodes had it in him to have like a real good street fight.
Oh, yeah.
But like, this was a fight, man. And
Yeah.
Kevin Owens, his shirt, man. His shirt.
I feel like Kevin Owens has paid his dues in these ladder wars, man. I don't want to see him in another ladder match ever. Not because he's not good at it, but because like he's paid his dues. You shouldn't have to do this, Kevin, to yourself.
His T-shirt.
Please be kind to yourself.
His T-shirt said, "The Canadian Dream, son of a security systems engineer." Just fantastic. This man, his T-shirt game is on point. I don't care what he's doing. Also, has definitely been hitting the gym. Like he's definitely.
I noticed. Yeah, I've seen clips and stuff. It's like, you're still wearing a shirt, but there's not as much coming out from under that.
Nah, there ain't. It's definitely So yeah, it was it was just a sicko match. It was total like Cody Rhodes was like, you know what, man? Let's do an AEW match. And they did, and it was great.
Who's gonna tell him no?
Nobody.
He's Cody Rhodes. He's a made
man. So then we get to the men's rumble. Okay. So we were talking about Lucha Underground earlier.
Yeah.
Number 1 and number 2 are Rey Mysterio and Penta.
Wow. There you go.
And it was great, man. Like they shook hands and then they went to work. And like it was some really good lucha for 4 minutes until Chad Gable showed up. And Chad Gable has kind of had a problem with both of these guys lately. Like he's having like the storyline right now is that Chad Gable is having a luchador problem. and he's getting consulted on how to deal with his luchador problem by Dom Mysterio. But he basically gets his ass kicked for like the next 3 minutes by Penta and Rey Mysterio. I mean, that's where that was going. But then Carmelo Hayes comes out, Santos Escobar, Otis, Braun Breaker, and this is where, like, finally we're going to get an elimination. And Braun Breaker eliminates Carmelo Hayes. When Braun Breaker eliminates Carmelo Hayes, Akira Tozawa's coming out, and Carmelo attacks Akira Tozawa and puts him out of the Rumble. At which point we go backstage and we see Triple H, and he's like, I don't know who to put in here. Speed, get in there. And so this is where he puts I Show Speed in the Rumble. I hate this. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. To be fair, the wrestlers didn't seem to like it either, because Braun Breaker hit the ropes 2 times to make sure he was at absolute full speed when he crushed this boy with a freaking spear. And this kid barely had time to turn. Like this kid was doing a backflip and showing off for the crowd. And as soon as he did that backflip, Braun hit the ropes the first time, and he came back across, and he was going his full 20 miles an hour, man. And this kid turned just in time to catch it in the chest instead of the side. Oof. And he caught it he caught it all too, man. Good God. And Braun Breaker immediately gets up and looks down like, you should not be here at all. Yeah. Like, he absolutely, like, not kayfabe, you should not be here. Really get the fuck out of here, YouTube streamer, you do not belong here. Like, they did not look like none of the wrestlers looked like they appreciated him being in there. And that's fine, because he was gone just as quickly as he came. Thank you, Braun Breaker. That was the most serious case of being cut in half I've ever seen in my life. Like, holy shit, dude. Wrong kid died. Holy crap. Like, it was crazy. Then we got Sheamus, Jimmy Uso, Andrade. Jacob Fatu shows up like mid-match, like 14 or 15. Wild.
Wrecks the place, probably.
Yeah. Ludwig Kaiser came in, and they had to check the time to make sure he didn't beat Santino, because he was out and about. I think he only didn't beat him by like 0.2 of a second or something like that. But yeah, he was out. Jacob Fatu immediately killed him. Miz came in. Then we had Joe Hendry in all his glory, and the crowd popped like crazy for Joe Hendry. A big pop. They sung along with his song. They were really, I mean, he's over, man, even in there.
He is.
And
really is.
Before he got eliminated very quickly, he got to fight with Roman Reigns. So he fought with Roman Reigns for a while, because that was the next entrant, because he was kind of dilly-dallying around, and Roman was not having him dilly-dally.
See, like, you want to tout your relationship with TNA. I think you can do better than having their world champion eliminated in a Royal Rumble match in less than 2 minutes. I think you can do better than that.
Yeah.
Congratulations, TNA. This is the relationship that you now have.
We stole your women's champion, and your men's champion is going to get shit canned in our Rumble. It's our top guy. So after Roman, then we had Drew, and the crowd popped big. And then we had Finn Balor and Shinsuke Nakamura. And so for the next 6 minutes, the crowd was completely silent. I don't know what happened to poor Finn, but they don't give a shit about him, man. And they don't care about Shinsuke, poor guy, even though he's the U.S. champion. After that, Jey Uso, crowd picks right back up. But even with that, even with everybody eating all over the place, the next entrant, AJ Styles, returns. And
he's been off for a while, hasn't he?
He has been off for a while with that injury that he was very upset about. And the crowd went pretty crazy for that. Braun Strowman then comes in. Him and Jacob Fatu are going after it. Then John Cena shows up. Then CM Punk. Then Seth Rollins.
Was Braun wearing a mask or anything for his nose?
No, he looked fine actually. So I guess it was
okay.
I guess it was just really good makeup or something. But God, they did it so good. It looks so gross. then John Cena and CM Punk and Seth Rollins all right in a row. And of course, Punk and Rollins are fighting immediately. And John
Yeah,
Cena's
on
being
site.
John Cena. Dominic Mysterio shows up. Then Sami Zayn, Damian Priest, LA Knight, and Logan Paul. At number 30 was Logan Paul.
Gross.
Gross because in that whole list I just named, there's no Kofi Kingston. And also gross because Logan Paul got to do the Kofi spots. Super gross.
Eee.
Then on top of that, Logan Paul eliminated CM Punk. Super gross.
Oh.
But he did get eliminated by John Cena directly thereafter. Like enough time, the crowd had enough time to be like, "Oh, that's shitty," and then, "Aha, he's gone." And Cena threw him like a lawn dart too, so it was great. See here, what else happened? We're probably gonna get. We're probably getting a Drew McIntyre and Damian Priest program because Damian eliminated Drew. So that will probably be happening. Roman was trying to eliminate Seth, and Punk eliminated them both. And Seth blamed it on Roman and went sick house and like double stomped Roman on the floor and then stomped him again on the metal stairs. So we're probably balling towards Seth versus Roman. I'm okay with that because that gets him out of CM Punk's way. And I think Seth and Roman have really good ring chemistry, so this will be good. Especially since Paul Heyman's going to do most of the talking, let's be real.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, other than that, we got to our final four, which was John Cena. It was John Cena, Damian Priest, Logan Paul, and Jey Uso. I'm pretty sure was the last four. Wait, Cena. Okay, yeah. So the last three were John Cena, Jey Uso, and Logan Paul. And then Cena eliminated Logan Paul. And then it was just Cena and Uso. And they had a good 10-minute match between Jey Uso and John Cena that was really good.
They gave him that much time.
Huh? Yeah, they gave it a lot of time. It was really good. And Cena just ended up on the apron and Jey ended up inside. And Jey like kind of double kicked him, drop kicked him off the apron, and Cena like landed on his feet and was like, "Oh hell." But then he got back in the ring and Jey Uso was like wary, and then Cena came up and like hugged him and was like, "Congratulations," and held his hand up. He gave him a nice rub afterwards too. So, and the crowd was as excited in the building as I was in my home because I came clean up out of my freaking seat and was like, Jey Uso won the Royal? What the fuck? Like, I didn't know what to think about it. I was super surprised. There are other people who will claim they were not surprised. They are liars.
They are liars. I was certainly surprised when I heard. I'm like, really? I could think of about 5 to 8 people I would have thought would have won ahead of him.
Yeah, I thought,
including people who'd never won before. I mean, like, yeah, Cena winning would have been his 4th one. They love breaking records. They could have done that. You could make a case for Rollins. Make a case for Reigns. Reigns is always a contender.
McIntyre.
Punk. McIntyre has won before. Punk has never won, and it would guarantee him getting into that ever elusive WrestleMania main event that he wants.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I mean, that's 5 right there. Like,
yeah,
I shouldn't say that make more sense, but that immediately come to mind before Jey Uso.
Yeah, there's a bunch of people that come to mind before Jey Uso, but I was smart enough. The only thing I was smart enough to know and predict was that I wouldn't be able to predict who was going to win this match.
Yeah.
I wanted it to be CM Punk, and when you're predicting the Royal Rumble, you can only really say who you want to win.
Yeah.
Because you never really know. I mean, like, women's Royal Rumble, a little bit different. When somebody like Charlotte... Yeah, when you're going to bring somebody like Charlotte in, and that's going to be her return, she's been gone for a year, we know she's winning the Royal Rumble. This isn't a hard one. But for the men, that Royal Rumble particularly had so many people declare for it, and it was so stacked that we knew there weren't going to be too many surprises, and there weren't. And we also knew that it could be literally anyone, and it was literally somebody I wouldn't have even thought. Like, if you put a gun to my head and said, name the winner of the 2025 Royal Rumble, I would have never in my lifetime said Jey Uso, and I'd
I
be
would have
dead
picked
today.
Sammy over Jay.
Yeah, for sure. I would have picked a lot of people. Um, and that's not saying anything bad about Jey Uso. He's super over. This does make sense in that he's super over. And this thing with Gunther's been building up for a couple of weeks where it kind of, I mean, it makes sense that this happened because now we're probably going to get Jey Uso versus Gunther. It's probably going to be a good match. They had a shorter match at SNME. It cooked. Let's see what happens when they get a Mania main event and get, like 30 minutes. Let's see what happens. They'll probably cook. And they could elevate Jey Uso forever. Or they could cement Gunther as one of the baddest men on the planet and the baddest heels ever. It just really depends on how they want to play it and what they want to sacrifice to get there to the end. So we'll see how WWE plays this out, but really, start to finish, I really freaking enjoyed the show. I had a lot of fun watching it. I enjoyed the hell out of it. I'm sad because I'm probably not going to be covering next year's Royal Rumble because of where it takes place. But if this is the one I go out on, I'm sure as fuck glad it was this one, man. It was really good, man. It was. It was. The good memories of this one could hold me over for a couple of years if I have to, stand on business and do my thing. So, this was good. I enjoyed the hell out of it. Big thumbs up, WWE. Y'all surprised me, which we all know. Any regular listener here knows if you surprise me, I like that. I like being surprised, and then I am thoroughly. So, and then everything else in the show was good. It was good wrestling. It was really good wrestling, man. And you don't get that out of
Nothing beats
WWE.
good wrestling.
But nothing beats really good wrestling. Yeah. So with that, I think it's time to do like the pros do and call it in the ring.
All right. As you know, our Call in the Ring segment is freeform. It's different every week. And this week I got to thinking about dream matches, things that we would love to see. And we've had our fair share of them over the past, several years. But there are ones that look like they are definitely out of the picture for one reason or another, ones that have eluded us. And those are the ones I wanted to talk about. I can name, rattle off a few off the top of my head. But we're going to talk about some of our favorite missed opportunities. But since I know what I want to talk about, but I figure there's probably going to be at least a little bit of overlap, I'm going to cede the floor at first to Aaron because I don't want to steal any thunder that he might be bringing to this conversation.
I mean, there's one really obvious one that
I can think of 3 or 4 really obvious ones.
I mean, the most obvious one, though, I want to go ahead and get it out of the way.
Yeah, do it.
Undertaker versus Sting.
Yeah. And I think that was probably the one that we were closest to getting at one point.
I think so. I think
of the ones that we're going to probably talk about, I think we were probably closest to getting that one.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, Vince didn't see it.
No,
he didn't know what he had in Sting.
No. And I just, man, I really, really wish we would have gotten that one. Like, as an Attitude Era fan and a Surfer Sting era fan and an NWO era fan and just like all of that all at the same time, like in my lifetime, like to go through literally like Surfer Sting and Mean Mark Callis and the Heart Punch. Like I was an Undertaker. Like that Undertaker actually terrified me as Mean Mark. So when he became the Undertaker, It was just so much worse. And I remember like it took me a minute to realize that it was the same dude. My dad was a big fan of his from back in like the World Class days. and he figured it out. He was like, "Hey, that's Mean Mark." And I was like, "Oh, great. I did that guy scared me anyway. And now he's dead?"
Well, at
You know?
least you didn't have to split your fear between two different guys. You could
Yeah.
just consolidate it all on one
Yeah,
guy.
just consolidate into one person. Yeah, but still like being a fan of
It's conservation of fear. It's one of the basic laws of physics.
yeah. But basically, I mean, my entire wrestling fandom, both of these guys have been on my TV. And, up until Sting retirement, and, Undertaker's still kind of on my TV because he has a really great podcast that I listen to. Despite his political leanings, I ignore all it. Like, when he gets wrestling guests on, I watch it because it's great. It really is. And so, like, these guys, they've been involved in my entire wrestling fandom. The fact that they never once faced off against each other as their powerhouse characters.
Yeah.
A loss that may not ever be able to be forgiven. That is a scar on the wrestling world.
Yeah.
We never got that.
Yeah, like unlike some of the other ones that we're going to talk about, most likely, this one could have happened. And there were people who were pushing for it to happen. And instead, we got Sting versus Triple H.
Triple H.
Now, don't get me wrong. I was in the audience for that WrestleMania. That was the last WrestleMania I attended. And that match, or that show, top to bottom, was great. It was definitely the best overall WrestleMania that I ever attended. It was one that exceeded the expectations set for it the most. Because I remember a lot of people walked into that thing, oh, this is just going to be kind of a ho-hum thing. It hasn't really been built up all that much. The ones that have been built up, not like great. And it exceeded, I think, pretty much everybody's expectations by quite a wide margin. I remember sitting and seeing Triple H come out, but I was seated at such an angle where I couldn't see all the Terminator BS that they pulled beforehand. Yeah. So I didn't realize how corny it looked. And don't get me wrong, I'm corny, but that's not my particular flavor of corny. It's all about, everybody likes crap. It's just which flavor is your particular brand. Like that's all it is. Yeah. Some people, I mean, I don't particularly care for, Triple H's Terminator fetish, his biker thing. Like, I don't see how you can take yourself as a big, serious biker when you're coming out on one of those silly little power trikes. Like, it's just, yeah, it was bad. But yeah, the match itself was like, it was okay. And then all the shenanigans happened with the with DX, which at least made sense, but the NWO, which made no sense. Like, unless they were going to come out as a wolf pack and it was, Hall and Nash, then it didn't make any sense.
No.
But it wasn't Hall and Nash in red. It was Hall and Nash and Hogan in white. Like, hang on a second here. This doesn't make sense.
None.
And then after all that, Vince's pettiness rears its ugly head, and Triple H not only goes over when nobody wanted him to go over. Because remember, this was still in the Authority era where he was the big bet. Nobody wanted to see the Authority go over at WrestleMania. But after all that, they make them shake hands afterwards. Like, that's just, ugh. It was so petty, and I hated it. I'm sitting there this entire time thinking, well, that was kind of fun, but it should have been Undertaker, right?
Yes,
like, it should have been Undertaker.
absolutely.
It should have been Sting and Undertaker, because the two kind of mystical, mysterious, black-clad, anti-heroes that kind of defined their respective companies for so long during their most up until a few years ago, their most popular and profitable period ever. Like, why wouldn't you? And the only thing I can think of is that Vince just could not see any worth in letting a WCW guy go over under any circumstances, unless it to a top guy, much less his son-in-law. Like, it just, that missed opportunity, it hurts because they had him for a year and they probably thought they may get to that match eventually, but then he got hurt.
Yeah.
He took that buckle bomb, it messed him up, and it got hurt, and we never got that match, and we never will get that match. Because even if they both came out of retirement, under what banner would it be?
Yeah.
I think Sting, he put off going to WWE for so long because he didn't feel like they'd do his character justice, and then he showed up there and he was proven right.
Yeah.
And I think he's probably one of those kind of guys like, fool me once, shame on you, but fool me twice, shame on me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he'd go back there.
No.
And then Taker, do we really want to see another Taker match at this point?
No, it wouldn't be the
I'm
same.
not interested in that.
No.
So, yeah, just a huge lost opportunity. Could have had it, but Vince ruined it because he's petty. Well, I mean, that was absolutely one that was on my list. I knew that was going to come up, and I think that this is another match that that I'm going to bring up. I think you could probably guess it if I gave you the opportunity, but I'm not, because I want to say it. We never, ever had the opportunity, and we never will again, to see Bret Hart versus Kurt Angle.
Oh, man.
And that's something that Kurt has gone on, and Bret have both gone on record saying that they really, really wish that they could have had that match somewhere down the line.
Yeah.
And, like, if Bret hadn't gotten concussed, it wouldn't have happened. I mean, it wouldn't have happened regardless of the concussion, because Bret didn't make up with WWE until 2006. Or 2005 was the beginning of it, because he wanted control over the DVD that they were putting out of him. And so that was well and truly past, Kurt, I think, was gone for TNA by 2006. I think it was late 2006, because it was right after ECW debuted.
Yeah.
Because he was there for like a month, and then they said, you have a painkiller problem. We will give you all the time off that you need to deal with it if you want. And he's like, I'd rather just, get released. And they granted him his release. And then he transformed into Perk Angle by jumping the TNA. And, like, Bret would never have shown up in TNA.
No.
Even if he could wrestle. But between the concussions and then the stroke that he would later have, I don't know. If he didn't have the concussions, he might have had the stroke, or he might not have. I'm not sure. I think the concussions might have been a contributing factor, but if they weren't, it still wouldn't have mattered, because they were in different companies.
Yeah.
And Bret, wouldn't have been able to wrestle at the level that he would have in his, even in, past his prime, even his mid 40s, if he didn't get kicked in the head. So, like, this was a timing issue more than anything. The timing it didn't work out because Bret got hurt and had to retire. And then by the time he made up with WWE, Kurt was gone from WWE anyway. Yeah. So, like, there was, like, no chance for this to happen, sadly. It makes me really, really sad, because, like, I could see how I could book it in my head, because, like, Bret is used to being the best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be, the best technical wrestler he's ever come across. And then you have an Olympic gold medalist who is a better wrestler than Bret Hart. And the story would be Bret going into the match a babyface, but having to do dirty wrestling, pro wrestling stuff, heel stuff, to get one over and take the match back from Angle.
Yeah.
And if Angle would go over because he's a babyface.
Mm-hmm.
But like, that's how I see it going. It's like, and you leave it up to Bret in there, like, he would tell just the best story out of it.
Oh, dude,
like,
yeah, that'd be fantastic.
Such just a missed opportunity based basically on timing. It just
Mhm.
sucked. It was truly destined to never be.
Yeah. Yeah. That sucks too because it would have been fantastic.
Yeah,
Oh, just so
it
good.
really would have. You want to say anything else about that one before you go on to your next one?
Man, no, that's just a huge loss that we couldn't have something like that. Like,
Yeah.
oh,
I like how both of them have, like I said, have gone on record saying that they both regret the fact that they could never have that match because they were both very interested in having that match.
yeah.
They have immense respect for each other, which I think is awesome for for a couple of people who probably have met maybe a handful of times in real life.
Yeah. Well, I've got one that I've scoured looking for it. I don't think it's ever happened. Despite both of them being on indie circuits for years at the same time. And I think that the chances of it happening now are infinitesimally small. It could happen, like in a really crazy turn of events. It might be able to, but I just don't think it's gonna. Um, but I would love, and I think it's a shame that we never got Kenny Omega versus Rey Mysterio.
Oh no, I never would have thought of that. Now I want it.
Right?
Now I want it.
Yeah, I'd never
Oh
thought about it until now,
no.
and it just, man, like I've looked for it, but it doesn't exist, and I need it to happen, but the chances of it happening now are just so tiny.
Yeah. Ugh. I bet you that we get another surgery on Rey Mysterio's left knee before we get that match.
Yeah, probably, probably. I mean,
Oh
I'm sure
man.
that Dom's gonna be with WWE until Ray retires, at least,
Yeah.
and maybe
Oh, for
forever.
sure.
But and Dom will stay with WWE or Ray will stay with WWE as long as Dom is there, just to make
Yeah.
sure he guides him correctly. And Kenny, unless he gets enticed and pulled to WWE during a contract lapse by like Cody or somebody, or maybe the allure of finally getting to work with CM Punk,
Hmm.
which would have been a banger match if they had gotten to work
Yeah.
together.
That's
Um,
another one.
yeah, it is. It is.
Another one for the list.
But like unless he gets pulled, like that would have to be the case. Like he would have to lapse at AEW and then show up in WWE, which would be the hugest coup.
Ugh, yeah.
I don't think Kenny is gonna leave AEW anytime soon. That is
I
not
was
me
gonna say,
saying that. I
yeah.
don't think he is.
You know why? It's because he's too nice for the wrestling business, is what it is. Like
Yeah.
this business is so cutthroat, and he's one of those genuinely good people, genuinely nice guys. I just don't think he. I think he would have a lot of trouble leaving Tony Khan
Yeah, probably.
after everything that Tony's allowed him to do. I think that his loyalty would just remain there. Like if he went anywhere else, it would be New Japan.
Yeah. Yeah, you go back to New
I
Japan.
don't see him going to WWE at this point.
No, I don't either. So yeah, I think the chances are really small of it happening. But even now, with now Rey Mysterio, not even like 20 years ago Rey Mysterio, like now Rey
Yeah,
Mysterio, they would have a freaking killer match.
yeah, yeah. I mean, the closest they came was All In, the
Yeah,
original one, right? So,
yeah,
oh man, I'm glad you thought of that because now that's all I can think about. All right. Well, okay. So there's that. I was gonna save this one for the end because it's a little out of left field. But since you already went to left field, let's go further down the foul line here. And I don't think, and I really want to see this, and this may be only me. This may be kind of a little inside baseball, a little deep cut, but I really want to see this match, and it's very apparent that we're never going to see it unless they both happen to wind up on an indie show somewhere like 10 years down the line, because that's the kind of person that Bryan Danielson is. Him and Pete Dunne.
Oh,
I
wow.
mean,
Yeah.
Pete Dunne has gone very, very out of his way to all but shout to the rafters how big of a Bryan Danielson fan he is. To this day, he wears maroon out of respect and admiration for Bryan Danielson.
Mm-hmm.
It's very apparent how I mean, even in his moveset and what he does, he's an enormous fan. And I'm a big fan of Pete Dunne, and I want it for him, but I also want it for me. Because
Yeah.
that match, oh, you talk about a brutal Techers match. Oh,
Wow.
I don't know if it gets much better than that.
No.
And with Bryan retired and Dunne firmly entrenched in WWE, unless he has a really short contract and he makes the jump to AEW during Bryan Danielson's part-time run, and they have a match for whatever reason, special exhibition or whatever, I really don't see it happening.
Yeah.
I think the window has closed, all but closed on that, and it makes me sad because that's like, I know that's probably not something that people would think about, but for me, who's been watching Pete Dunne since the first NXT UK special and saying, "Holy cow, that's the guy! That's the guy to build this brand around." Him and Tyler. It was him and Tyler Bate,
Mm-hmm.
and like, it's like being so impressed with him and knowing instantly just from the shade of the color of his trunks, like, oh, he's a Bryan Danielson fan. um, yeah, I wanted to see it, and I'm kind of sad that I don't think it's ever going to happen,
Yeah.
because I think it would be awesome. I think it would be one of those that has the potential to break the scale.
Mm-hmm. Man, I would. Yeah, I'd really enjoy that. I really enjoy Pete Dunne's work, and I'm a huge Bryan Danielson mark. So yeah, that would just be brutal in
You
the
know me.
best way. They'd kill each
Yeah,
other.
it would absolutely. I don't think they would have fingers left.
No, for sure, no. Be biting each other's fingers off.
Just
Oh.
joint manipulation all over the place.
Mm.
They're, the adrenaline wears off, and they go home to their wives like, "Oh God,
Oh God, what did I do?
why did I take that match?"
Oh man.
You
Let's
got
see.
another one?
Um.
'Cause I got one more I want to talk. At least one more that I want to talk about.
You know. You know. I would love to see this match, mostly because I don't think I'm ever gonna see it.
Yeah.
Just based on one of the person being closer to the end of their career, and the other guy probably not ever being in a position where this would happen for him. And also because there's a huge comparison between the two. I'd love to
I
see.
think I know where you're going with this.
I would love to see Kyle Fletcher versus Randy Orton.
Oh, no, that's not where I was going at all. Oh, that's interesting.
I would love to see Kyle Fletcher versus Randy Orton, man. I think it would be
okay.
like
I don't know if I've mentioned this on the podcast before. I probably have, but in case y'all didn't know, I'm not like the biggest Randy Orton fan. I think I get confused when people, like when JBL was all like, when you want to build a WWE superstar from the ground up, you think of Randy Orton. And I'm like, really? That guy? The
Yes,
boring
Adam.
guy? The boring guy? Like, I understand the RKO out of nowhere. I get that. I do. The punt looks good when he's allowed to use it. Other than that, I just don't get why people like Randy Orton. Because to me, he is so boring. Like I remember for like a period of like 6 years straight, he'd be the grab the rear chin lock of doom guy and just work it for like 5 minutes. I'm like, you are so boring. Why do they have so much faith in you? Get off my TV. Like, I just I just don't get it. Like, I understand that, I'm in the minority here. Okay, I get it. I get that. So if you want to light me up on Blue Sky and extol the virtues of Randall Keith Orton, by all means, I welcome that discourse. That's great. I don't think you're gonna change my mind, but I welcome the opportunity to have those conversations. But I do not get. I don't get it. I don't get it.
We will be gathering tomorrow on Blue Sky at 9 a.m. with pitchforks and torches, everyone, just so you know.
I'll go on my lunch at work and I'll be like, oh, I have 17,000 notifications. Oh, what's this about? Oh, it's Randy Orton.
Hashtag
Throw my
RKO Adam.
Throw my phone out the window. It's like, okay, well, I guess I'm not doing this again. And he has some of the worst like facial hair decisions in history too. Like there was at one point that I and my friend, I coined it because he had the weird like, I don't know, it was a weird like mustache, but it kind of like went around. It wasn't like a true mutton chop because it was more beard here, but it was like, but like he looked gross, and I started calling him the apex child predator.
Aww.
Because that's what he looked like. Like,
well,
also like the dude never wears pants ever. He's like Pac. He's always in his gear, but he's like got the little tiny shorts, little tiny thing. Like he'll come out to the ring in his freaking trunks and his shirt that's too long, so it makes it look like he's only wearing a shirt, and it makes me uncomfortable.
I don't know, man. I don't think his tiny shorts make me as uncomfortable as Dragon Lee's.
I don't really know much of Dragon Lee's work.
So he was on AEW for a little while, and this is where I noticed it, but it still happens in WWE now that he's over there. But he has like the smallest pair of trunks that you can possibly have and be decent. Yeah. But it's like, man, who poor guy has to wrestle Johnny Snowglobes over here? You know, like.
Anyway, the point that I was trying to make before I derailed everything, I'm sorry, completely went off the rails, folks. Sorry, Adam had to tell an Adam story again. But it's like I noticed when Kyle Fletcher kind of redid his character and his presentation. It's like, oh yeah, he's trying to look like Randy Orton. Like, yeah, I think I was not the only one who made that comparison.
No, you sure
by a stretch.
Nope.
But yeah, like if the match is good, it's going to be because of Kyle. It's not going to be because of Randy. Except for that final RKO that he uses, it'll be very well placed and it'll be well executed. But the rest of the match, if anything interesting happens, it'll be because of Kyle.
I mean, still, I'd still love to see it just because, you know,
for the Spider-Man spot,
anything for the Spider-Man spot.
Yeah,
and also,
also, I get you there.
I don't know. I think it'd be a banger. Yeah, Kyle will probably pull out all the stops and make it into a banger because Orton's kind of set in his ways and he's been with WWE for 20-something years. So he's probably not going to wrestle an AEW style match, but I bet Kyle would be able to drag him to it. You know, don't want to look bad in front of me, old man. You know?
Yeah. And he's big enough where he could, like, the thing is, you can't really bully a guy like Kyle.
No.
Because he's about as tall as Randy is. And he's a bit more slender. Randy's really packed on the muscle lately.
Yeah.
But I don't think Kyle's afraid of him or anybody.
No.
I don't think anybody that tall doesn't really have much to be afraid of.
No.
You know. So.
No.
So the final one that I'm gonna talk about, and you can add on at the end if you want, but I did want to make sure that I wanted to talk about this one. We never got And I love this one because of the story behind it. We never got The Rock versus Shawn Michaels.
Never.
Never.
Really?
Really. Never. We got plenty of Triple H during that era of early DX. But we never got Shawn versus Rock one-on-one. I mean, and if it did, it was while he was rocking Maivia. It was never it was never as The Rock, because Shawn had retired by then the first time.
Holy crap.
Do you know the story behind this?
It looks like, according to Google, they had a fight backstage and there was some kind of grudge, and that's why they never had a match.
So, the story goes that a lot of people probably assume it was because Rocky was a Brett guy, and he was. He had a one match with Brett on a Raw one time. Brett, of course, went over, but like he helped him out a lot. And he would always ask Brett for advice and stuff like that. They didn't have a lot of overlap because that was like Brett's last year in WWF. But a lot of people assume it was because he was a Brett guy and it had to do with Montreal. It has absolutely nothing to do with that, although it probably didn't help the situation. You got to remember where Rocky comes from.
Mm-hmm.
And his grandmother ran the NWA Hawaii territory. Shawn, in his much younger, earlier days, would work the territories like anybody. And one of the territories he worked when he was really young was NWA Hawaii. Well, I don't know if you know this, but Shawn Michaels, when he was younger, right up until around 2001 or 2, was kind of a prick. He shows up and apparently did something to disrespect The Rock's grandmother, the promoter of the territory, and and he happened to witness it because this was at the point in his life where he was living in Hawaii, so he must have been like 8 or 10 or something like that. So he was young, but he saw that, and then remembered that, and later carried that on to WWF. Now, he probably didn't have the political stroke in the early part of his career to avoid it if the match was booked. But once he became a star and he had a little bit of sway and stroke over who he fought in the ring, he refused to work with Shawn because of the way Shawn, despite the fact that he had reformed and become a born-again Christian and become, by most accounts, a much better person, unless you listen to the Hurricane, who still thinks he's a prick. He took that very seriously, and he didn't ever want to work with him, despite that being something that would probably be a huge money match.
Oh yeah,
honestly, like that has WrestleMania written all over it. But he refused to ever work with Shawn over that incident with his grandmother.
Huh. Well, it's a shame.
That's why it stuck out to me. It's like, oh man, like that's kind of a great story behind it. But I really wish that hadn't happened, so that we could have gotten that match, because that match would have been awesome.
Yeah, it would have, especially the two of them.
It really would have.
Because at the height of The Rock and Shawn being around, he was still very good. Man, that could have been freaking killer, man.
Yeah.
Oh, it could have been so nice. But no, I mean, good for Rock for standing on business, though, man. I mean, he's
no, for sure.
Stand up for your gram.
You don't screw around with a Samoan when it comes to family.
Hell no.
You just don't. You're not going to win.
No,
you will not win.
Oh, what are you gonna do? Hit him in the head?
Nope.
Not at all.
It won't work.
It does not work.
Won't work. Might work on The Rock. He's half black. He's not full on Samoan.
It'll only half work.
It'll only half work.
Plus, look how big his head is, man. I don't know.
He's not immune to it, but he is resistant to the damage.
He's damage resistant.
Damage resistant.
But yeah,
anything else you wanted to
No, man, I
to
think that's a
bring
good
up.
way to close it out. That's a good story, man. Like that's a great way to put it to bed. But gosh, man, I
Yeah.
really wish we would have gotten that one. I
Yeah.
can't believe we never did. Like I'm like, really? You sure? I mean,
Yeah.
but no.
We never got Sean versus Eddie either
Oh,
because
man.
Eddie passed. It would have happened eventually if
Yeah.
Eddie hadn't passed, but that we got Eddie, we got Sean and Ray on the tribute show for the first and only time in
Yeah.
singles too. That was fun, but yeah, we never got Sean and Eddie. We never got Rock and we never got Austin and Goldberg.
Mm-hmm.
We never got Austin and Punk. Although that one might
Nope.
be possible.
Yeah, they could
because
do a street
because
fight.
they could do a street fight like Austin did. If he can do it with Kevin Owens, he might be able to do something with Punk.
Yeah.
So that one might not be off the table yet.
No, maybe not
But-
yet.
But I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think he wants to get in there with Goldberg.
I don't think
He'll
anybody
want to
does.
get in there with. He'll get in there with Punk because he's safe. You know,
Yeah.
you don't want to get in there with Goldberg with this third.
Whoever has to do
unless you're
Goldberg-
young.
Whoever has to
Yeah.
do Goldberg's retirement match is gonna be like, oh man.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I'm gonna have to put this old man over, and he's probably gonna hurt me in the process.
Yeah.
You better pay me.
Yeah, it's gonna have to be a big payday. I wouldn't
Yeah.
take it otherwise. Hell no.
No way.
But
All
yeah.
right. Well, that's it for us this week, guys. I really hope that this coming week, is just as good a wrestling week as last week was, and the week before that, as Aaron said at the top of the show, what a time to be a wrestling fan. We are so lucky, so fortunate to have such great content to devour as wrestling fans these days. It's fantastic.
Yep. And with that, as usual, take good care of yourself. We will see you next week, and we love you all. Have a wonderful time. And, try to keep your head up out there.
Peace.